Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. Time to kick off another exciting edition of The Drive for this 27th day of July. And it's a scorcher out there. I mean, well, it's 93 degrees, but at least, the humidity is up there. So at least it's a moist heat. And I think the feel-like temperature going to get up around 100 today. Well, I'm telling you, I just stepped outside, and it's not too surprising to me. Sounds about right.
Yeah, but, it's what you call outside.
The accurate meteorological term for today is bleh.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Good.
Well, all right. Well, let's all be careful out there. Hydrate, drink water, stay in the shade. Don't go out if you don't have to.
That's what I'm doing.
I had a conversation just a moment ago with the bulldog. I mean, that's it. Do you want to go outside or do you want to stay here in the studio where it's nice and air conditioned? And the answer was, I want to go back to the house. It's even nicer over there. So bulldog knows.
Mm-hmm.
Now be careful out there. Sure enough, everything it's really, really it's going to be tough for them. And I don't see any rain. I mean, I think we had a little rain here last night, just a little pop-up shower, but I don't see any real serious change in the weather for days.
Yep. Can be hot.
Okay, everybody, you have been officially warned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where do I want to start? Yesterday, big day, and we talked about how the Hunter Biden deal completely blew up in court, or did it? There's a new line on this today that I'll get to in just a moment, which is brought to my attention by a great reporter, Katie Pavlich. But let's just see exactly, what on the day two. There's always on a day two where people have time to look through the documents, study them just a little bit more, and have a different take, perhaps, than they did before about what really happened. And I think that has happened today. Lawyers for President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, were fuming hours after the tumultuous Wednesday court hearing that left the first son in legal limbo. Hunter Biden's attorneys, according to the Washington Examiner, were agitated by Judge Mary Ellen Noreika's thorough questioning of lawyers for the defense and prosecution on the terms of the plea deal agreed to. This, according to Axios, the interrogation revealed varying understandings of the deal from two sides. I'm not sure that's true. I mean, they went in there claiming, and they've been claiming for some time now, that we got this deal, and if everything goes through, the investigation of Hunter Biden is complete, because some of the more serious charges, they ran out of the statute of limitations and no longer could be charged. So this was a sweetheart slap on the wrist, give a little rap on the knuckles kind of thing that was worked out between Hunter Biden's attorneys and the DOJ. The DOJ, however, let it be known that there was still an investigation and that it was entirely possible that Hunter Biden could be indicted again for not registering as a foreign agent in these business dealings, and that there was an ongoing investigation which the Department of Justice did not want to describe in any detailed way. All right. Well, here is the story from Katie Pavlich, which I think is pretty interesting. It's been 24 hours or more now since Hunter Biden entered a Delaware courtroom expecting to walk away without jail time and having a codification of his sweetheart plea deal offered by the Department of Justice, wiping away felony tax fraud and a felony gun charge with minor misdemeanors and a diversion program. And that was the expectation. But there's a guy out there who's a pretty good legal analyst, a former federal prosecutor by the name of Will Scharf, who has written extensively, and Katie Pavlich repeats it here in this article that can be found at townhall.com, suggests that, well, there really was sort of a sweetheart deal and everybody was on board until they got caught by the judge. Based on my conversations with people who are in the courtroom today and with my experience as a former federal prosecutor, Will Scharf writes, I think I know the full story of what happened with the Hunter Biden plea agreement blow up yesterday. Bear with me, it's a bit complicated. And I'm not going to bore you with, it is a very detailed argument about what was going on behind the scenes legally. But let me just see if I can cut to the chase in all this rather than give you a bunch of legal gobbledygook, which probably won't help you a lot. So they put the facts in a plea agreement, but they put their non-prosecution agreement in the pretrial diversion agreement, effectively hiding the full scope of what the DOJ was offering and Hunter was obtaining through these proceedings. In other words, they hid some of the details about what was in this deal from the judge and everybody else by putting them in the pretrial diversion agreement. Hunter's upside from this deal was vast immunity from further prosecution if he finished a couple of years of probation, and the public wouldn't be any wiser because none of this was clearly stated in the plea agreement, as would normally be the case. Judge Norica smelled a rat. She understood that the lawyers were trying to paint her into a corner and hide the ball. Instead, she backed the DOJ and Hunter's lawyers into a corner by pulling out details into the open and then indicating that she wasn't going to approve a deal as broad as what she had just then in the courtroom discovered. I mean, the judge smelled a rat. And the ratty deal here was that, indeed, the DOJ was working hand in hand with Hunter Biden's prosecutors, Hunter Biden's defense attorneys, to hide some of the unsavory segments of the pretrial agreement. So, she was right to step in. She was right to say, I smell a rat. And again, it appears that the DOJ and Hunter Biden were working in concert. His attorneys working in concert to get a sweetheart deal, and then they worked very carefully to try to hide it, but the judge found it. I think that is probably exactly on the money. I think that's exactly on the money, and good on the judge. Good on the judge for trying to find that, okay? But so we hear that the defense team is furious, and now we bring you information that perhaps the defense team for Hunter Biden and the Department of Justice working in cahoots. I don't know what cahoots really is, but I think you get the meaning. Hunter Biden's partner, Devin Archer, is going to testify, meanwhile, on Monday on Capitol Hill before a closed-door session of the House Oversight Committee. His testimony will be under oath and will be transcribed, and the information in that interview will be made public. He's apparently, Devin Archer, is apparently very concerned over threats that have been made, and this was all happening. He seems to be very concerned as he watches the plea deal fall apart, too. Now, there were some new Hunter Biden conditions of release. In other words, the judge, before he left the courthouse, he was told that there are some things that he needs to do while this thing is being renegotiated. Number one, Hunter Biden must not violate federal, state, or local law while on release. Okay, that's a pretty good idea. The defendant must cooperate in the collection of a DNA sample if it is authorized. The defendant must advise the court or the pretrial services office or his supervising officer in writing before making any change of residence or telephone number. I mean, what is his residence now? Does he live in Delaware? Does he live at the White House? What's that all about? The defendant must appear in court as required, and if convicted, must surrender as directed to serve a sentence that the court may impose. And the defendant must sign an appearance bond if ordered. So there you have all that, a bunch of stuff that Hunter Biden has to live up to as he goes forward. This thing is, I'm telling you, was quite a shock. But I'm perhaps more shocked by the fact that we have a situation right now where the Department of Justice is not looking out for the interest of the public at large. They are cutting sweetheart deals. They are working hand in hand with the prosecutors, it would appear, of Hunter Biden in order to make sure not only that there's a sweetheart deal, that Hunter Biden does no time, he gets a break that probably you and I would never get, if we had to do something and we were before the Department of Justice and investigation. And all of that is being done in sort of a surreptitious way where they could hide. I don't know how you want to do it. Well, why would the DOJ want to hide this from the judge so that the judge, had to dig it out on her own? Well, I think you can tell it's another example. They got caught red-handed. It's another example of the Bidens getting special treatment by the Department of Justice. They let certain charges lapse. Why? Why did they do that? What prosecutor in their right mind would allow that to happen? But they did. They let the most serious charges lapse on the statute of limitations, and they said, no, you can't bring that. The case is too old. They even, by the way, had an agreement at one point with the prosecutors, the defense team, that they would say, you know what, we will allow you to bring that back. We will waive the lapsing of these most serious charges against Hunter Biden. And then, for some reason, it's inexplicable. Nobody really knows why. Even after they got an agreement from the defense lawyers for Hunter Biden to sort of waive the statute of limitations concerns, they went ahead and let it expire anyway. They didn't follow through. Oops, was that just a mistake? No, I don't think so. I think another example of trying to do something that kept Hunter Biden out of jail. When you and I, if put before the Department of Justice, and would never be given the same kind of treatment, never at all. So there you have that. Now there are other things happening with regard to this, and as you know, the Speaker of the House has been very adamant. He said he's raised the I word recently, saying it's time for an impeachment inquiry. And a lot of stories have been out there saying, here you got the Speaker of the House talking about impeachment already, impeachment. Well, he quibbles with that description of what it is that he has said. He said, not really quite what I did say. If you want to know exactly what I said, then let me tell you. And I'll play that. This just happened minutes ago on Capitol Hill. What is he thinking about when he uses the I word? It's all straight ahead right now, 20 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. T. King Insurance, King & Associates Insurance in Brentwood, 25 years as an independent agent, and that's a big advantage. It's a small agency, and they have weeded out a lot of non-competitive companies. See, what I like about them being independent is, number one, they're going to treat you as an individual. They are small enough to care about you as an individual and not just try to give you a one-size-fits-all solution to your insurance. Here's an example of how it's different. They care about you and getting it right for you. 615-329-8121. You call that number. You don't get a phone tree. You don't get a recording. You don't get a message that says, please stay on the line. Your call is important to us. No, what you get is a person who answers the phone every time. And then the other thing I like is because they are small, they can shop around and find exactly, as an independent agency, find it exactly the insurance policy that best serves your needs. Not a one-size-fits-all, but something that gives you the best bang for your insurance dollar. Multi-policy discounts, you can save big. So listen, I tell you, I'm gathering up all my information now, and it's a considerable task, but I'm going to get it all put together, and I'm going to have them run my numbers. Now, I'll share that with you as we go through the process. So get your royal review with King & Associates. Log on to tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance & Associates, royal treatment, and really great rates.
Former President Trump with another indictment more than likely coming. A Franklin alderman violates code, and House Republicans call for summer break early. Those stories and more coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 24 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Brian Wilson in the chair on the air. We're talking about day 2 of the Hunter thing, where we found out that, Hunter Biden, his plea deal just blew up and it exploded, and it was a surprise to a lot of people. But now there seems to be some evidence suggesting that the prosecutors and the defense team were working hand in hand to hide some of this information. So, they were trying to cut a sweetheart deal and give Hunter Biden a sweetheart deal, and they were hoping nobody would notice where they buried all of the stuff that they didn't want everybody to see. But they did. You've been hearing the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, who, by the way, I don't know how you feel about Kevin McCarthy, but I've been watching him very closely since he's been Speaker. He's having a great time, first of all. He's a pretty effective spokesman for the House of Representatives and for the conservative cause, and he's, I think, been handling himself pretty good. A lot of people may disagree, but I think he's handling himself just fine. And he was getting ready to. They're getting ready to go on August vacation. That's right, August. They'll all be back in the home districts for a while. And he, on the way out the door, did a press conference and had this to say about this talk of impeachment. He was the one who raised it first, raised the specter of an impeachment inquiry, but a lot of people misunderstood what it meant. Here's his explanation as of just a few minutes ago.
There is a big difference, and let me explain it because maybe not everybody understands it. What impeachment inquiry does when you vote on the floor, it gives you the apex of power of Congress. Okay? And just walk through what? We have 2 whistleblowers from the IRS claiming the Biden family were treated differently, that David Weiss let the statute of limitations run out. The basic rule of thumb in any case, when you're getting the statute of limitations coming up within 6 months, you get an extension based upon the individuals. They said the Bidens were willing to do that. They should do that now. We have an individual that we now found went to the FBI a number of years ago, claiming that they bribed the president and said you couldn't find the money because all the shell companies, it's the 1023. We found that when then Attorney General Barr found it, that he sent it to the Pennsylvania Justice, and they said there's more to it. When does an attorney out-investigate the FBI? We then found that the president, Biden, while running for office, made a couple claims. He first looked the public in the eye and said, I've never spoken to my son about any business dealings. He said, my family has not taken one dime from China. In part of this investigation, we found that when the vice president became vice president, his family created 20 shell companies, kind of like what the 1023 said would happen. We found that 16 of the 17 payments from Romania came to the president while he was vice president. We now found that money did come from China, differently said. We've now found the president has changed what he said, but we have a real question about David Weiss and the Attorney General and the other 6 people in the meeting. It's contradictive based upon what the IRS agents said and asked questions and took notes from the meetings and emailed everybody about those notes. Now, if you're any member of Congress, this is not saying impeachment. This is not anything but we need to investigate. And what happens, like you watched the situation yesterday, where the federal government says there's still an investigation of the Bidens. Well, the only way you'll be able to get information that way is to have the strength to be able to get the documents you need. I was concerned when asked a question that I haven't seen an administration act this way at the same time as Nixon did by withholding information. If they do not provide the information we need, then we would go to an impeachment inquiry. Impeachment inquiry, which simply is an investigation and providing Congress the power to do that investigation. So I'm glad you asked a question that I could clarify that you misinterpreted and misstated. Last question.
Took a little jab there at the reporter on the way out for asking the question and misunderstanding the answer a couple of days ago. Well, I think. Listen, an impeachment inquiry means that you begin the investigation to find out if there are facts that would lead to an impeachment hearing, and it does give Congress certain powers that it might not already have. And so I'm glad he's clarified this, but it is something that I think is on the horizon, and I do think that it's going to eventually reach the point where they have to do this because everybody's in the game now to hide the evidence, to make sure that, no, you can't get this and you can't get that, and they're going to be dilatory. And when your FBI is being dilatory, when your Department of Justice is being dilatory and saying, no, we're not going to give that to you, or we're not going to give it to you right now, and they're playing games, when you have the prosecutors and the defense team working hand in hand to give Hunter Biden a sweetheart deal, and then try to hide all that in some documents that the judge might not normally see, there's something wrong here. There's something really wrong here. I think the evidence is getting more and more compelling, and I think the speaker is onto something here, and I think we're going to have an impeachment inquiry, and it may be later this fall. It may be, the first of next year. But if they get all of the documents put together and they find that there is evidence of high crimes, misdemeanors, bribery, then the impeachment proceedings would then begin. Is it early to talk about impeachment? Yes, maybe. Is it too early to talk about an impeachment inquiry? Absolutely not. 30 minutes now, past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
.331, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. A heat advisory in effect today until 7, and tomorrow from noon to 7. Heat index will be in the triple digits, possibly up to 107 degrees. Traffic and weather coming up in 5 minutes. Former President Trump says his attorneys had a, quote, good meeting today with federal prosecutors and special counsel Jack Smith's office. Mr. Trump recently received a letter informing him that he's a target in the special counsel's investigation into January 6th and alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Legal experts say a target letter from prosecutors means an indictment probably is imminent. Here's more from Catherine Falders.
If there was an indictment, they would vote up this indictment. That would need to happen first, and then we would become aware of it potentially in open court. In terms of the timing, we just don't know, but we do know that the grand jury is in today, and we do know that Trump's lawyers were over at special counsel Jack Smith's office making the case during a meeting about why they believe their client shouldn't be indicted.
In Franklin, an ethics hearing was had today for a Franklin alderman, Gabrielle Hansen, who sent a threatening letter to the Nashville airport circling around a Juneteenth event. Fox 17 says that the board voted that Hansen violated Franklin code. Hansen was the center of controversy earlier this year after claiming on a podcast that she predicted the mass shooting at Covenant School was going to happen. She said the killings happened because of a love triangle. Hansen also announced this month she's entering the mayoral race for the city of Franklin. That election day is October 24th. And in the nation's capital, House Republicans declared their month-and-a-half-long summer break a few days earlier today. They did it without voting on several must-pass spending bills. Andy Field.
House Republican Majority Leader Steve Scalise announcing on the House floor the chamber will leave for August recess today.
Votes are no longer expected in the House tomorrow.
Which did not sit well with Democrat Catherine Clark.
They are sending us home for 6 weeks without funding the government?
The House now has just 12 days when it returns to pass other spending bills or face another government shutdown.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic are next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Listen, I go there. I've been through a lot of treatments there. They have a thing called non-surgical spinal decompression. I've done 24 of the sessions, and it really helped me with my lower back and my neck pain, and it can help you as well. You need to take, if you're in pain, really arms, leg, neck, back, maybe you have a tingling in your extremities. All of these things are things that can be made better through the application of this non-surgical spinal decompression therapy. Take advantage of their 2023 special. Get an exam, consultation, x-rays if needed. Bring in an MRI if you've got one. Sit down then with the doctor and go over your condition and your custom healing recovery plan. It'll all be discounted by 50%. Now, here's how you get started. Just call this number, 615-246-5009. First consult, $23 for your if you're a new patient. Okay, that's the deal. 615-246-5009. Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley Mitchell now offer the first of its kind KT machine. It's like spinal decompression for your knee. It gently elongates the knee and the joint and allows the meniscus or the cartilage to heal with receiving the healing therapy without the need for surgery or painkillers. Again, why don't you just make the call? 615-246-5009. Learn more about all the things they can do for you at the Wellness Institute of Nashville by going to their website, painisbad.com. It's 38 minutes past the hour at 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Just a side note. I'm watching the TV monitor here. Does anybody have a welder that looks like Kristi Noem?
Or a plumber?
Or a plumber?
I thought the exact same thing.
I know. I'm telling you, the people that come to my house and do plumbing don't look anything like Kristi Noem.
No.
And my welder is named Cornbread. So, I'm serious. His name is Cornbread.
I don't know. He's got a whole nother layer of appeal.
Yeah, he's a pretty good guy. But yeah, anyway, I just always wonder. I find them humorous, and by the way, I guess they're pretty effective spots because I'm paying attention. Yesterday, a scary moment, and just outside the Senate chambers, as Republican leaders gathered, Mitch McConnell started to address the reporters that were there in the hallway for that little scrum, and something happened, some kind of an event. I don't know what you describe it, but it went like something like about this.
Partisan cooperation and a string of
He just locked up, kept staring straight ahead. It's pretty spooky looking. And it took a little while for those around him to figure out what's going on, but John Barrasso was a doctor. And they asked him, do you have anything else you want to say? And they walked him away and took him down to his office, which is nearby. And I will say that he came back a few minutes later and answered questions and seemed fine. However, it raises real questions about, this guy who's 80, what did we decide yesterday? 81 years old,
yes.
Mitch McConnell is? 81 years old. You got Dianne Feinstein. This happened today. She's in a hearing, and all she had to do was say one word, which was I, suggesting how she was going to cast her vote. But apparently she was a little dazed and confused.
I would like to support a yes vote on this. It provides $823 billion. That's an increase of $26 billion for the Department of Defense. And it funds priorities submitted.
Yeah, just say aye.
Okay, just
Aye.
And apparently it was just the vote. And all she had to do was say aye or nay, and she just started off on her speech, indicating she wasn't really aware of what was going on around her and confused. And she's up there, too. She's way up there. And we have now witnessed, of course, things happening with Joe Biden. I don't even have to tell you about some of that stuff. I mean, he has, it seems one or two of these a day. And my question is, have we reached a point in time where we might want to think about putting an upper age limit on how long you can serve in Congress as an elected official or as president of the United States? 615-737-9986. Would love to get your thoughts about this. I mean, we've seen President Biden slip, and there are times where we think, my gosh, does he even have a concept of where he is? I keep a whole bunch of the Biden garble right here on one pin, on one little button.
Think about it. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it. I propose, and I'm going to digress slightly. We're in a situation. With the whole, all men and women created by go. You know the thing. Hush up, boy.
I mean, it's almost a daily thing where we have something happen. Sometimes he just falls or trips or stumbles or falls off a bike. Is it time, when we look at what happened to Mitch McConnell out of Kentucky and Dianne Feinstein of California, who was gone forever while she was undergoing treatment for something? Is it time to have a limit? 615-737-9986. Okay, to the phone lines we go. Let's start with Mike in Spring Hill. Mike, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Mike?
I say definitely there needs to be an age limit on serving the United States and Congress and the House and all of that. And I'm a big proponent of term limits, but you look at these guys that come in and they serve 20, 30 years in office, and all they do is enrich themselves and their family members and all the little buddies and side hustles that they have. And meanwhile, the country just suffers and pays for it.
Well, I can't really disagree with you. And we do have, minimum ages for running for some of these offices. So, I think maybe it is in order. I want I don't want to be in a situation where you have someone like DiFi representing a state the size of California. Are you really getting the senator that you voted for when she doesn't really seem to know where she is? I mean, they've been talking about DiFi for a while, and I think understandably so. How about Carl in Murfreesboro? Carl, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the Drive. Is it time for an upper age limit for the presidency, for members of the Senate, for members of Congress?
I would say yes, and I would just make the comment that pilots, commercial airlines.
Oh, Carl, we miss you, but I get you. Now you're back. Go ahead, Carl.
I said that pilots have an age limit because I guess it gets dangerous at a certain age, and it would be no different than somebody like Feinstein making bad decisions.
Well, I guess when you're talking about an airline pilot, you're talking about, is the person up to safely flying the plane? It's a you don't want to put somebody up there who's not up to flying the plane, even if they've got a good co-pilot or a younger co-pilot. I don't know. I think I saw the other day where they are raising pilots' retirement age in some places because there's a shortage of pilots. With a pilot, I don't have a problem if there's a young co-pilot, or I don't have a problem if the pilot is young and the co-pilot is somebody who's getting up there for a few years. Seems like that would be a pretty safe bet, but it's a little different, I think, because you're talking about public safety and the fact that a plane could crash. Nobody's going to crash on Capitol Hill, but you're just not getting, it would seem to me, the kind of representation that perhaps you should have. Alan in East Nashville. Alan, you're up with Brian on the Drive. What's your thought? Do we need an upper age limit for our elected officials?
Brian, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we're ever going to get a term limit, but the thought on upper age is the problem is you've got a handful of people that won't sit down, shut up, go home, and they're ruining it for everybody. It's that way in our culture. That's the reason everybody has to be frisked when they go through TSA. You got a few bombers out there, and now millions and millions of people have to be inconvenienced. It's the same way. And there may be a combination of if and or, meaning term limits or age bracket. So you can give people flexibility. You and I both know people in their 80s and 90s that are sharper mentally, physically, verbally than we are, and those people should not be precluded from serving our country if they desire to. So we've got to figure out a way to get those people like the McConnells and Schumer and Pelosi's and Feinstein's to sit down, shut up, go home. So there's got to be an and or. You put bookends on there between term limits and age, and there's got to be a way to hem them in.
Yeah, I'm telling you, DiFi, apparently people have approached her and said, you need to do this. You need to step aside. And she's apparently one here has rejected that. Said, no, I'm not gonna. How do you make her? I don't know. Donna in Springfield, time for term limits, and I'm sorry, term limits. Time for an upper age limit on our elected officials. You say you reach a certain age and you can't serve anymore. I mean, I do know people who are in their 80s. My father-in-law is astonishing. I mean, this man is in his mid-80s, and I'm telling you, he looks like he's in his 50s. And he's still out there, working on houses. He's quite a craftsman, doing the amazing things. Do we need to have a law when there are these exceptions to the rule? Donna?
Oh, hey. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it was you. You're up.
Okay. Yes, I bar from getting term limits because we're never going to get that. I think that a mental capacity evaluation needs to be done. Probably either they show signs of incompetence or a certain age for medical evaluations done on people's mental status.
Yeah, but then don't you imagine, Donna, that if they do that, if they say, okay, we got to send you to the doc, then doesn't it become very political? Doesn't it become subjective?
I think an independent doctor that is, they have to make sure it's an independent doctor that's not going to clear them,
Right.
Because then you end up a not a group that's going to be non-political about it. So,
All right.
that's, I'm a nurse. I think that's, I see people that are mentally incapable at 50 and people that are smart and still with it at 100. It's just, I don't think an age limit is, just setting an age limit is a good
But
thing.
some kind of test, perhaps. All right, Donna, thank you so much for that. I greatly appreciate it. Vern in Madison, very quickly, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Vern?
Okay, I am all for term limits, and his age, and by the way, thanks for having me on, Brian.
You bet.
McConnell's age, I don't think had a lot to do with his, what happened to him when he phased out like that. That is the earmark of a petit mal epileptic seizure, and he had a concussion 5 months ago.
Yeah.
I think he needs to be neurologically worked up because that used to happen to me.
Well, very quickly, I just want you to hear, this is 20 seconds and we move on. Kevin McCarthy, after that incident, the Speaker of the House met with Mitch McConnell. He said he didn't have any concerns about him whatsoever.
First, let me tell you, I have no concern. I actually met with Leader McConnell twice yesterday after this incident. I met with him at 3 o'clock. He came in. We have a regular meeting. We talk about the future legislation we have going, appropriations, what's happening in the Senate. And then later that night, there was an event on Major League Baseball where he gave a speech and I spoke after him. So no, I have no concern.
Well, apparently, whatever it was, it cleared very quickly for Mitch McConnell, but it certainly was a scary moment or two. 51 minutes now, past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. One of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now, we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now, we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
More information on the botched plea deal with Hunter Biden. Another indictment likely for former President Trump. Extreme heat continues in Phoenix, Arizona, and around the nation. And some good news for LeBron James' son, Bronny James. That and more coming up at 4 right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, let's take a look at the numbers. Dow Jones Industrials down 237 points. S&P down 29. The NASDAQ ended the day down 77. This was a surprise because it looked like we were headed into another day of gains on the Dow. It didn't turn out that way, John Maxon. But from Beacon Capital Management, give me your sense of what happened. It was still a pretty good rally.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. It started out great. You know, the Dow was on its way to a 14-day winning streak, which would have literally been the longest winning streak it had in almost 40 years. So the question is, what did happen? So what happened was what sounds like a good thing. GDP was revised up for the second quarter to 2.4%, and that beat most economists' expectation. So the negative to that, though, is that there's a fear now that the economy and the labor market's going to remain hot. You know, inflation has been the big topic. So the concern is that interest rates may continue to go up and or stay at elevated rates for longer. So we'll get a much bigger picture on inflation actually tomorrow, and so we'll see what happens. But that's what happened in the market today.
All right. Thank you very much, John Maxon from Beacon Capital Management. Learn all the things they can do for you by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
It's 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. A heat advisory in effect until 7 p.m. tonight. Heat index values could reach up to 107, and that heat advisory will be in effect tomorrow from noon to 7 as well. Complete weather and traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. And the reasons for unraveling of the plea agreement between Hunter Biden and federal prosecutors are being made clearer in court documents, as Stephen Portnoy reports.
The judge noted that the document spoke of Hunter Biden's business dealings on behalf of foreign entities. When the judge asked whether the agreement covered possible charges for illegal foreign lobbying, and prosecutors said that such charges could still come, Biden lawyers said the plea agreement was null and void.
Former President Trump's attorneys held an hour-long meeting with special counsel Jack Smith today as another indictment looms. Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville thinks it's because the Biden administration wants to shift attention.
We all expect it to happen. He gets indicted every other day, especially with things happening over in the White House. They are right now. They've got to take the pressure off of them.
Tuberville went on to say that there are, quote, a lot of people who should be in trouble, a lot more than what President Trump is for what happened, end quote. In Phoenix, the temperature is expected to top 110 degrees today for the 27th consecutive day, smashing that previous record of 18 straight days. President Biden says his administration is taking 3 steps to help workers and communities deal with that heat. Elizabeth Schulze.
The first one is an alert from the Department of Labor that would inform employers that they have to protect their workers in instances of extreme heat. Second step is an investment of $7 million in the national forecast system. So NOAA is partnering with universities, basically trying to collect more data to make their forecasts more accurate. And finally, the Interior Department is announcing that it will try to boost water storage capacity, especially in some areas that are hit especially hard by drought.
And LeBron James, his son Bronny James, has now been discharged from the hospital after suffering a sudden cardiac arrest during a basketball practice at USC on Monday. Bronny says that he gives thanks to the swift and effective response by USC athletics. LeBron James came out on social media to say that they'll say more on the matter when they're ready, and he thanked everyone for their outpouring support. And in Fresno, California, there soon could come home to the world's biggest Costco store. Now there's a debate. Here's Alex Stone.
Like most states, Costco has loyal fans in just about every California community, the $1.50 hot dog pulling them in. Now there's a proposal to build a Costco in Northwest Fresno with a site about 4 football fields in size, 6,000 feet bigger than a giant Costco that just opened in Salt Lake City. It would be both a store and an e-commerce fulfillment center. This Costco shopper in Fresno says, great idea.
We like something bigger, you know? When you get bigger, it's more items you could choose.
But there are some worries in the neighborhood about the traffic and crowd impact, some saying it would be just too massive.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
8 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. Good afternoon on this day, July 27th. We're into the second hour of the drive. Glad that you're with us. Man, I'm telling you, we got a plethora of news. We got an embarrassment of riches here to things we got to talk about. And so settle up, buckle up, get ready. We'll get you home safely, and we'll get you some information along the way. I want to talk. We talked last hour about Hunter Biden day. We had sort of some day 2 drama, what we have learned as we poked around and learned more about that hearing yesterday. But I also need to talk about the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. His lawyers met with prosecutors today ahead of a possible 2020 election indictment. Here's from the Associated Press, pretty up the middle. Lawyers for Donald Trump met Thursday with members of special counsel Jack Smith's team ahead of a potential indictment over the former president's efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election, according to a person familiar with the matter. The meeting included Trump lawyer John Lauro, said the person, who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Trump himself confirmed the meeting in a post on his Truth Social networking, writing, "My attorneys had a productive meeting with the DOJ this morning, explaining in detail that I did nothing wrong, was advised by many lawyers, and that an indictment of me would only further destroy our country." Trump, the frontrunner for the 2024 presidential primary, was informed earlier this month by Smith's office he was a target of a Justice Department investigation, which is generally a suggestion that an indictment is in the offing. Investigation into has focused on the turbulent 2-month period after the November 2020 election, in which Trump refused to accept his loss to Democrat Joe Biden, and spread lies that victory was stolen from him. Well, they say it's lies. He believes it. The turmoil resulted in a January 6th riot, if you want to call it a riot. I don't know what the right word is. When Trump loyalists broke into the Capitol building. We know about all that. I was there. All right. So there was a meeting. What is this meeting? What does it mean? Well, when you are getting close to handing up an indictment from the grand jury, by the way, everybody gets that wrong. You don't hand down an indictment. You hand up a grand jury indictment. Just the right word. You are allowed to come in and give, your best, case about why there should be no indictment. You get an opportunity. And so Trump's lawyers go in there, and they're allowed to provide exculpatory information that would help his case, which one assumes must then now be shared with the grand jury hearing the matter. And so does that happen? Yes, sometimes you go in there and your lawyers give it a good go around and lay out certain things that perhaps the prosecutors had not considered. And you lay it out in a strong and forceful way, and you say, no, he didn't do anything wrong, and here's our reasons for saying it, and here's the legal precedents that we lean upon to come to these conclusions. And they lay out an entire legal case saying, look, if you're going to indict the guy, fine, but at least share this information with the grand jury before they have an opportunity to make their decision. Here's another version of the story from thehill.com. Former President Donald Trump bracing for a third possible criminal indictment this year as a Washington grand jury meets today to review evidence in special counsel Jack Smith's probe into the effort to block the transition of power following the 2020 election. So this meeting with Donald Trump's lawyers happened later this afternoon, maybe about an hour and a half ago, came word that there would be no indictment handed up today. Smith has been investigating numerous ways Trump and those in his orbit sought to unwind the 2020 election. Trump's attorneys met with Smith on Thursday morning, according to multiple reports, and were told to expect an indictment, according to reporting from NBC. The special counsel office declined to comment on that meeting, and Trump's attorneys did not respond to a request for comment. It is a fact, Jack, that Trump is leading the polls for the 2024 presidential nomination, and that has not changed. Here's Wall Street Journal has a version of this story from this morning. Donald Trump's lawyers met Thursday. Special counsel. Prosecutors moved closer toward bringing an indictment against the former president over efforts, they say, to cling to power after his 2020 election loss. Trump's lawyers John Lauro, Todd Blanche arrived Thursday morning at Smith's office, which is several miles away from the Justice Department main headquarters. The special counsel's target letter cites 3 statutes, according to a person familiar with the matter, including a Reconstruction-era civil rights charge, conspiracy to defraud the U.S., and obstruction of an official proceeding. This is where they seem to be headed. An indictment would open a second federal criminal case against Trump, the frontrunner in the 2024 presidential nomination. All right. Smith's office is also prosecuting Trump, as you know, on a separate 37-count indictment alleging he retained classified government documents at his Mar-a-Lago resort and obstructed the government's efforts to retrieve them. I think that the president has a pretty good case about the documents. Now, the other thing is going to be subject to interpretation. And these prosecutors that are handling this case, must now, or maybe they did today. Maybe they met this morning saying, here's our exculpatory information. Maybe they went back to the grand jury in the afternoon and said, we want to share some things with you from the other side so that you can make a good decision. One way or the other, after all was said and done today, there was, I guess, a prospect that there might be an indictment come down today, and it did not come down. What does that mean? I don't know. But here's what I do know, that the more they come after President Trump, the more they throw rocks at this guy, the more that they bring indictments and legal, the stronger he gets. He's like the Teflon president. They used to say that about Ronald Reagan, but I think it's really true. I think this guy's Teflon. Nothing sticks to this guy. And he tends to, the people who support Donald Trump, when these things happen, they rush to him in greater numbers, and they support him in greater numbers. Here is evidence of that. Former President Donald Trump has endorsed, let me change that a minute. Here, this story. Former President Donald Trump continues to dominate the Republican primary field as his lead over Governor Ron DeSantis has grown 10 points in 2 weeks. Well, we've known about this for at least a week or more, that this was coming. And since the news came that there may be another indictment against Trump, his support has grown by 10 points over Governor Ron DeSantis. This according to a YouGov Economist poll. The survey published Wednesday shows that 54% of registered Republicans and independents who plan to vote in their state's Republican presidential primary back Trump. He has climbed 6 points since another YouGov Economist poll taken in July. So here it is. Trump, 54. DeSantis, 18. Ramaswamy, 6. Pence, 3. Haley, 3. Scott, 3. Christie, 1. Suarez, 0. Well, the rest of them don't really matter. Don't really quite have a number behind them. Now, this according to the YouGov poll. So if Trump's at 54 and DeSantis is at 18, he's got a 36-point lead on DeSantis. Now, who overcomes a 36-point lead? Not many people can do that. DeSantis, meanwhile, seems to be pulling back, cutting his staff. He raised some money, and he's been out there, and he's been working hard, but it doesn't seem to be registering. And now I think that the story yesterday was he's cutting back on staff, and he's firing people from the campaign. Trump stands 36 points ahead of DeSantis. Wow. That is something. And you know who's picking up the people who are leaving DeSantis? You know who's picking up his numbers? Vivek Ramaswamy. Seems to be finding some favor with those who have come to the conclusion for one reason or another that DeSantis is not the guy. Entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy has surged in several recent national polls, has 6% support, not a lot, but it's good enough for third place. climbed 4 points in recent weeks, marking the largest increase in support in the field outside of Trump. So some people have glommed back to Trump, and some people who DeSantis, apparently from his world, have now moved over and are now supporting Vivek Ramaswamy, it would appear. By the way, this story, not unimportant. I hear this from you all the time. Well, we've got to figure out how to do what the Democrats do. We can't win if we don't do things the way the Democrats do them. We're talking about ballot harvesting. Well, there's this. From the Daily Caller. Former President Donald Trump has endorsed the Republican Party's new election strategy that seeks to turn out voters early, including provisions for early voting and ballot harvesting. The Republican National Committee, the RNC, launched the Bank Your Vote campaign on June 8th to encourage Republicans to vote before Election Day, which includes efforts to increase absentee voting, early in-person voting, and ballot harvesting, where absentee votes are collected en masse and deposited at election offices, and that's only in states where the practice is legal. Trump endorsed the strategy in a video that he put out on Wednesday, saying, the RNC is leading the fight to help secure your vote in 2024. They're fighting bad Democrat laws, putting folks on the ground to serve as poll workers and poll watchers. So go to bankyourvote.com and sign up and commit to voting early. Well, we're going to have to do it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We're going to have to do it. I on a personal level, I don't know if I know I'm going to vote for sure. I don't like to vote early because, especially in a primary, because I never know. I don't want to get down to the last day and then something comes out and I go, well, now I can't support the person that I voted for and I've already cast my ballot. But I think honestly, this has to be the way we go. We have to do the early voting. We've got to play the game that the Democrats playing so well. We got to get those votes in the bank, count and ready to go, so that when something comes up on Election Day and Republicans can't get to the polls, maybe it's bad weather, maybe it could be anything, I don't know. Well, whatever it is, you've already got your ballot in. So voting early is going to be the mantra for both the Democrats and the Republicans going forward, and the former president endorses this idea heartily. 21 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. The Nashville Armory ranges have 2 locations for your convenience. The Nashville Armory is at 4290 Kennelwood Drive in Nashville, over 15,000 square feet, retail, classrooms, and, of course, pistol and rifle rated ranges, so you can learn, you can become proficient, and you can stay that way. The second location, Franklin Range at 390 South Winds Drive. There, you'll find 10 state-of-the-art shooting ranges equipped with automated target control and custom shooting stalls that provide a virtual private shooting experience. And the folks, man, that work there, well, they pride themselves on hiring folks who have enough expertise to advise even the most experienced shooters. But they also have the patience to gently guide those who are new to the two-way world. You're not going to find any attitude, and you're not going to find any pressure. Just helpful information. Gunsmithing is back at the Nashville Range. If you're buying your first gun or adding to the collection, you'll find a wide selection of new and pre-owned firearms, suppressors, optics, apparel, shooting accessories. It's the place to buy. It's the place to train. It's the place to become a really good shot. Learn more. Go to armoryranges.com. Let them know I sent you there, okay?
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy clarifies his impeachment comments on President Biden. Former President Donald Trump may be indicted yet again, and today's Money News. Those stories coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I mean, this Jason Aldean song continues to do very well on the charts, even after they came under some criticism for some of the imagery. And there's a whole spate of stories out there that says that, well, he re-edited the piece and resubmitted it. And it seems to suggest, if you look at some of the headlines and some of the stories that have been written, that maybe Jason Aldean was having second thoughts or somehow pulling his punch on the message that he wanted to send, not only with the actual video, but also in the song, but that he was backing down from some of the criticism. Well, I would suggest to you that's not the case, and I found one organization that did the homework to find out exactly what the story is there. Why did he re-edit? Well, if you know anything about radio and TV, sometimes we have to have permission to use certain things. So the music video for Jason Aldean's latest hit, writes the Post-Millennial, is now 6 seconds shorter than after the footage of an Atlanta Black Lives Matter riot was removed over copyright issues. See, nobody else has reported that. A source close to the situation told reporters that the footage showing cars was set on fire came from Fox 5 in Atlanta, the Fox affiliate in Atlanta. Now, when you do a video like this and you're using news footage, you can't just use it. You have to get permission to use it. The source said the production company that made the video, Tacklebox Films, contacted Fox on May 8th asking permission to use the local affiliate's clip in the video. They claimed that Fox asked for more information about the song, including its lyrics. Tacklebox allegedly sent Fox a link to the song, but didn't send the lyrics in writing per protocol. When the music video for the song was uploaded on YouTube on July 14th, the footage from Fox 5 in Atlanta was seen projected onto the Murray County Courthouse in Columbia, Tennessee. The source said Fox then reached out, and only then reached out to Tacklebox and gave them a polite ultimatum to remove the footage or face legal action. In other words, they withdrew any kind of tacit support they had given to allow the use of the video. The production company complied. The footage was cut from the music video about a week ago. BBR Music Group's Aldean's record label said in a statement the video was edited due to a third-party copyright clearance issue. New York Post reports the end of the video is also changed with the news anchor's voiceovers, changing slightly. And so, this is not Jason Aldean having second thoughts. This is not Jason Aldean pulling his punch. This is not him succumbing to pressure about the song. This is one of the people that they had reached out to get a video that would go into the music video, and being told now you can't use it. So they have to take it out. They withdrew their permission to do that. And so this stuff happens all the time. It just doesn't normally get noted. But, I mean, it's being, I think, widely misreported that Jason Aldean is having second thoughts or pulled his punch. It's really just a copyright issue. It really is just lawyers being lawyers. 30 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
.430, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories right now on Music Row. 98 degrees, and that heat advisory remains active until 7 p.m. tonight. Another advisory going on from noon to 7 tomorrow as well. Heat index values could reach up to 107. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy clarified his recent comments about opening an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. McCarthy pointed out to reporters today that he specifically used the word inquiry. The speaker said it would happen if the Biden administration doesn't comply with their requests.
If they do not provide the information we need, then we would go to an impeachment inquiry. impeachment inquiry, which simply is an investigation and providing Congress the power to do that investigation.
Lawyers for former President Trump have arrived at special counsel Jack Smith's office. They had a meeting as a potential indictment looms, and that meeting between lawyers for the former president and the special counsel's office is reminiscent of a similar sit-down that occurred in early June, just days before Trump was indicted in the classified documents case. And in the target letter he was most recently sent in the January 6 matter, Trump was offered the opportunity to testify before the grand jury. He declined to appear. And now over to the money news. Dave Packer walks us through Wall Street today.
After 13 straight days of gains, the Dow breaks what was said to be a historic winning streak. On Thursday, blue chips fell 238 points, giving back earlier gains as traders cashed in. Had the Dow closed in positive territory, it would have tied the record of 14 straight days of gains going back to 1897. Other indices, the Nasdaq fell 77 points. The S&P 500 was down 29. The Commerce Department reporting gross domestic product grew at a seasonally and inflation-adjusted 2.4% annual rate in the second quarter. That's faster than expected. Microsoft under the microscope. The European Union opening an antitrust investigation into the software giant over concerns that bundling its Teams messaging and video conferencing app with its office productivity software gives it an unfair edge over competitors. Anheuser-Busch InBev, the parent company of Bud Light, announcing it will lay off about 350 workers, mostly corporate staff, as sales slump in the wake of boycotts over the company's partnership with a transgender influencer.
And that is the latest news, traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
You know, in times of market and economic volatility, gold and silver just might be the safe haven you're looking for. Hey, it's Brian Wilson for Nashville Gold and Coin, and if you're looking to buy real, actual, hold it in your hand, gold, silver, or bullion, let me tell you, this is the place I do business, and it's the place I recommend. You'll get honest, friendly customer service and a real precious metals education. And they also specialize in the buying, selling, and appraising of coins. Do you have any idea how much some of those old coins you have laying around might be worth? I bought in a few silver coins I had in a shoebox, buried in my sock drawer for Lord knows how long. Turned out, I'm still astonished by this, turned out to be worth $1,652. Now, whether you're in the market to purchase precious metals or just want to find out what those coins in your closet might be worth, schedule a one-on-one consultation today. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. It is 37 minutes now past the hour 4 o'clock, and baby, it's just hot outside. Let's just go ahead and call it what it is. It is really, really hot. I've got temperatures like at 97, 98. What do you got there, Chris, on yours?
97, yeah.
97, and a feel-like temperature probably 102, 103.
I would think so. I don't
At least
see it.
that, yeah. So, I mean, this is, I'm going to reach over here. Hang on a second. I'm going to find this story. It seems appropriate at this particular moment. There we go. I have everything right here behind me in my big rack of stories that I have, collected for today's program. What are the symptoms of heat stroke, and can eating watermelon prevent it? I think there's a story for you right there on a day like today. Summer heat, of course, listen, you've got to be careful. You can get out there and you can have a heat stroke. You can get dehydrated pretty quickly. You sweat pretty quickly. If it's humid outside, you don't sweat enough and it doesn't evaporate. You don't cool. And one way or the other, you could really get yourself in a world of trouble in very short order. Now, I hate to be that person that says, if it's hot outside, don't go outside. I hate to be that person. If it's hot outside, make sure you drink water. Seems common sense, right? But you'd be surprised that the common sense is perhaps not as common as you once thought it was. But summer heat makes people's bodies rise, temperatures rise, and there are automatic triggers that the body engages in to stay cool, increased sweating and breathing. But heat stroke may happen when the temperature is too high and the physiological self-adjustments fail to control body temperature. In other words, they overwhelm. So how can you prevent it? Well, there's a story here about whether or not watermelon will help. You ready? Watermelon is a popular, this is so good. Watermelon's a popular fruit in the summer, and it does help relieve heat and prevent heat stroke to a certain extent. Here are some of the benefits of watermelon in preventing heat stroke. It replenishes water. Watermelons, well, the first word in watermelon is water, right? High water content, moderate consumption can effectively replenish water in the body, which helps prevent dehydration. Watermelon has a cooling effect, relieving heat sensation in the body and fever symptoms. It contains certain, I can't even pronounce some of these words, but certain precursors of nitric oxide and polyphenols and carotenoids. There you go. There's 3 words I got through without stumbling. Play a role in cardiometabolic health. Supplementation with watermelon and these substances that are within watermelon showed to lower blood pressure in human trials. Huh. I didn't know that. And another research published by Biomedicine and Pharmacotherapy in 2019 showed that lycopene contained in watermelon has a neuroprotective effect. Lycopene also possesses antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and anti-proliferative properties, playing a preventative or therapeutic role in disease such as heart failure or tumors. So, there we go. So get you some watermelon.
I love watermelon. I really love water.
I hate watermelon. I don't like it at all.
Why? It's delicious, sweet and juicy.
Just don't care for it. The only watermelon that I got excited about in my whole life was that one day when I was a kid. Apparently, we had spent one summer eating some watermelon on the front porch, and the seeds got spitted into the flower bed.
Okay.
Next summer, we had watermelons growing in the flower bed, as you might expect.
Yeah.
Well, that was, I thought, the grandest thing ever, watching that watermelon grow. And I did eat that watermelon because I felt like I was personally invested in that watermelon.
All right.
Watermelon. So, the answer is, be careful. Take it easy out there. But maybe, watermelon.
Couldn't hurt.
Sounds like couldn't hurt. I mean, what's wrong? It's got all these other things in it that are good for you. Go get you some watermelon. And you know how to tell if they're ripe?
Yeah, you thump on the side of it, don't you? And if
Yeah,
it
but
makes the right noise, it's
well.
I have
what
no
is
clue.
what is the right noise? I don't know. I've asked a lot of people over the years. I used to work in a grocery store, and there was a produce manager that I liked. His name was Pepper. You know why they called him Pepper?
I'm not sure I want to know.
Well, he would take jalapeno peppers during break. He'd sit back in the break room, and he'd take a bite off of a jalapeno. I mean, a really hot jalapeno pepper. Dip it in sugar, and then take another bite. Dip it in sugar, take another. He'd eat those things raw.
Huh.
We called him Pepper.
Kind of weird.
Yeah. In other news, this is more evidence that when you go woke, you go broke. Anheuser-Busch laid off hundreds of workers at its U.S. offices after months of slumping sales at Bud Light. The world's largest brewer, which also sells other brands, you know that, of course, Wednesday said the cuts would affect less than 2% of its 18,000-person U.S. workforce. The layoffs won't impact frontline workers such as brewery and warehouse staff. We never take these decisions lightly. We will ensure that our organization continues to be set for future long-term success. These corporate structure changes will enable our teams to focus on what we do best, which is brewing great beer for everyone. The restructuring eliminated corporate and marketing roles. And unsurprisingly, the restructuring eliminated corporate and marketing roles at major U.S. offices, including the Bud offices in St. Louis, New York, and Los Angeles. Bud Light sales have tanked, as you know, since April amid a commercial backlash over a promotion with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. Earlier this year, the Mexican brand Modelo Especial dethroned Bud Light as the top-selling beer in the U.S. All right, so people still walking away. I mean, I just wonder, is there anything that can happen that would allow you to forgive Bud? I mean, what would it take at this point? I don't know that there is anything that they can do to undo the damage.
I think the ship has sailed, but the only thing that could undo it, I think, is just the passage of time. Maybe people will just forget about it.
Wow,
I'm telling you,
you know, this is tough stuff for Bud. You know, and you know, again, if you are in marketing and you're not thinking about these things, then you know you're pretty dumb, because quite frankly, you can make one stupid marketing move, and you can see, well, right, it's coming down to the fact of laying off hundreds of workers at Bud, and they have lost, what is it? I forget how many $1 billion in market share as a result. And they had Bud Light. It was number one. Not anymore. Doesn't take long to destroy that, does it? Quickly, in other woke news, this story from the Tennessee Star. The Tennessee Teachers Union is suing over the law that prohibits the teaching of critical race theory in the state of Tennessee. The Tennessee Education Association, along with several teachers, filed a lawsuit that prohibits the teaching of CRT in classrooms K through 12. In 2021, Governor Bill Lee signed that bill into law, and banned K through 12 educators from teaching tenets commonly associated with CRT in the classroom, including that the U.S. is fundamentally racist, that one race or sex is inherently superior to another race, and that a person is inherently privileged or oppressed due to their race. The TEA and 5 state teachers filed a lawsuit alleging the law is unconstitutionally vague and interferes with an educator's ability to provide a fact-based education. This according to a union press release. There's no group of individuals more passionate and committed to ensuring Tennessee students receive a high-quality education than public school educators. Okay, enough. Just teach reading and writing and mathematics and the basics. I mean, look at the school test scores and tell me, is this the hill you want to die on, really? It's not your job to indoctrinate our students. It's not your job to try to teach things that are, I would say, the questions that they raise. There are questions about this and whether or not, their teaching well, I think their teaching is incorrect, and I think that the more important way to teach this is the way we've traditionally taught history. If you want your kids to have this education, which doesn't get you into a college, doesn't get you out of a college, doesn't prepare you for the workforce, I don't think in any way at all. If this is where you want your kids to spend their time, then do it after school. But in the classroom, let's get busy in the state of Tennessee about teaching kids the things they need to know to prepare themselves for lives. We are not doing that right now. The scores are abysmal, and we need to get over, this kind of stuff and focus on the stuff that really, 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 really. I don't think many parents are going to argue. There'll be some, I get it, some will want this to be taught, and they'll back the teachers. But I don't think the teachers come from a very strong position of strength when they aren't getting the job done now. And now they're making the case that, well, it'll all be made better if we can just teach a little CRT, critical race theory, in classrooms K through 12. I hope that lawsuit goes away, and I think it might.
Brian, shifting gears real quick, I just saw this news note. You had me keep an eye out for it, and I did find some answers here. The Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks, had a show scheduled tonight at Bridgestone Arena. They posted on their Twitter account, or I guess I should say their X account, about half an hour ago, due to illness, the Chicks must regretfully postpone tonight's show at Bridgestone Arena. It says, we are working on rescheduling. We'll provide a new show date as soon as possible.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, I was looking at the temperature, and I was checking. I thought it might have been an outdoor concert, and they were canceling because of the heat. But what we know is the Chicks are canceling because some member of the Chicks apparently are not feeling well.
Yeah, I don't know if it's true or not, but there was a comment up under it that said Natalie. Hope Natalie feels better. So I don't know if it was her. If that was the chick that was feeling under the weather. But regardless, they are encouraging fans that are ticket holders to keep those tickets for the newly scheduled date whenever that will be announced.
All right, so we got a sick chick and the concert's been canceled. All right.
Yeah.
50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let me tell you about D.T. McCall's, a place that I do a lot of business. You walk through my house here in Bucolic, Watertown, and you will see a lot of furniture, a lot of appliances, a lot of things I can point to. It's just a ton of stuff that has been purchased at D.T. McCall. Why? Well, because I like doing business with them, and they treat me right, and they have a huge selection. For example, I got a big couch in my living room. Cabana wife and I weren't at all on the same page about the couch. I mean, she had one idea and I had another. But it was because we went to D.T. McCall, one of their stores, and walked around and looked at all of the selection that we quickly found something that was great for both of us, and people actually comment on it when they come to the house. So, having a huge selection really does help. They have this thing. They have this thing called a free delivery. They'll bring you whatever you've got. They'll bring you this, if you buy something, they're going to give you an honest price, and they're not going to charge you extra for delivery, for the cords or hoses to hook up the appliance, or the haul away. It's 3 charges that they bring in most places that add on to the cost of the thing that you bought. And you're going to find at D.T. McCall's, they just give you an honest price, and then they don't charge you extra for the delivery, the setup, and the haul away. D.T. McCall's is a family-run company, been around for about 100 years. You don't make it 100 years without treating people right. And they use, whenever possible, and they sell products that are made right here in Middle Tennessee to keep local dollars local. You're going to find a lot of things for your home. Just go to one of their 5 convenient locations, and to find out more about all that, go to their website, dtmccalls.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. And one of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Another indictment for the former president seems likely. More information on the Hunter Biden plea deal that unraveled. Another lawmaker dealing with what seemed to be a health issue today. And a sick chick. Those stories and more coming up at 5 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, it is 57 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to get back into yesterday's big development with the Hunter Biden case where it just sort of blew up. There are new details that have sort of leaked out that may make you pretty angry about what was really going on behind the scenes and how the prosecutors and the defense team were working together to hide what it appears to be information from the judge. I will get into it, and you'll make your own decision. We'll just report, you can decide, coming up in just a few moments after the news with Mac Morey. It is now 58 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. All right, if you're in the market for a pole barn, the two brothers that run Stoltz Co., there are guys you need to talk to. First of all, exceptional quality, craftsmanship, and fair prices. They can build you a new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. That's the Stoltz Co. difference. You can use pole barns for all kinds of things. Can function as a classic tool or work barn, a garage, or even a place to live. Flexibility is the key. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They do not scrimp on quality. They do not cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. You've got to go to their website to take a look at what I'm talking about, and you will see in just a matter of seconds, this isn't your granddaddy's pole barn. This is something new. This is something different, and I think it's something you're going to like. That's StoltzCo.com, STOLTZCO.com, or call this number, 615-622-5992. I think you're going to love what you find at StoltzCo.com.
It's 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 98 degrees, and that heat ain't going anywhere as a heat advisory is in effect until 7 tonight, and from noon to 7 tomorrow. Could see heat indexes up to 107 degrees. Got a complete weather forecast, the latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. Some breaking news, this just in from Fox. A third person has been charged in the Trump documents case by special counsel. Mar-a-Lago's head of maintenance, Carlos de Oliveira, was indicted out of special counsel Jack Smith's investigation. Then again, that's related to former President Trump's alleged improper retention of classified records. And speaking of indictments and the former president, there was a meeting with special counsel Jack Smith's team and former President Trump's lawyers, and he's now the target of their investigation into alleged efforts of overturning the 2020 election, which is a strong indication an indictment could be imminent for him. Here's Catherine Falders.
Since that target letter, they did speak last week to additional witnesses. One of those witnesses was Will Russell, who's a current aide to the former president down in Florida. But since then, this is the first day this week that we've spotted the grand jury, at least that the grand jury is in today. So they've talked to witnesses, and it appears that they're just tying up loose ends as this indictment looms.
And the reasons for the unraveling of the plea agreement between Hunter Biden and federal prosecutors are made clearer in court documents today. Steve Portnoy reports.
The judge noted that the document spoke of Hunter Biden's business dealings on behalf of foreign entities. When the judge asked whether the agreement covered possible charges for illegal foreign lobbying, and prosecutors said that such charges could still come, Biden lawyers said the plea agreement was null and void.
Crime here in Tennessee. News 2 reports that a man, Bill Gailey II, has been taken into custody after being connected to child pornography. He was charged with 17 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor, and now he remains in jail on a $200,000 bond. Back to the nation's capital. More questions on Capitol Hill about the health of aging senators after Senator Dianne Feinstein appeared to be confused about how to vote today at a hearing.
Dianne Feinstein, who's been a U.S. Senator for more than 30 years, appeared to be unsure how to vote at a committee hearing today. Instead of responding with the usual aye or nay, the 90-year-old California Democrat began delivering prepared remarks before being coaxed by her friend and colleague, Senator Patty Murray.
Yeah, just say aye.
Okay, just
Aye.
aye.
Feinstein was out for 2 months this year with health problems.
A sick chick. The Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks, have postponed their show tonight at Bridgestone as they're dealing with an illness. They say if you have tickets, to keep them because they're currently working on rescheduling that show, and they've apologized for any inconvenience. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's 7.5 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk, hour number 3. We're rocking right along here on the drive today. And I just, in case you have not noticed, and I can't imagine that this escaped you, it's hot outside. Feel like temperatures well in excess of 100 degrees. And, this asphalt, and we're going through basically what other parts of the country were going through a little earlier. We've got real heat, but at least it's a moist heat. That helps, doesn't it?
Sure.
The official meteorological term for today's weather is "bleh."
Or
yeah. You want to try one, Mac?
Yeah, you might want to work on that before you crack the mic.
I don't know. It sounded like something else was going on in the news booth there. I'm not sure.
I'm not looking back.
All right. Wait. I'm sorry. I didn't say that. But, I mean, it is hot. And so be careful out there. Use your common sense. And if you were going to the Dixie Chicks tonight, it's not the Dixie Chicks, it's the Chicks.
It'll be
we're
offensive,
not allowed.
Brian.
We're not allowed to say Dixie Chicks. The Chicks. Well, they canceled because they got a sick chick. We hope the best. Hope it's nothing serious.
Hope they call the veterinarian.
I don't know, but a sick chick, and there's not going to be a concert at Bridgestone tonight. But I'm telling you, it's hot. Now, I mentioned that watermelon might be the thing that'll get you through, and now I'm told I'm having watermelon for dinner.
After you said you don't like it.
I don't really like it, but but apparently, but it is getting me out of having to mow the yard. I made the case that I was going to mow the yard after the show. I was going to get out there on my zero-turn ZT2 and just take after it because, my yard is way, way out of control. I missed the windows when it wasn't raining last week, and I gotta get it done. And then my dear loving Cabana wife said, "You're not mowing tonight. It's too hot." I said, "No, I'm going to." So I got out of it. I don't have to mow.
Well, you'll have to mow, just not tonight.
Sooner or later, I'm going to have to mow. You're right. She says, "Do it tomorrow morning."
There you
I
go.
don't know. Maybe I don't want to do it tomorrow morning, but I would do it tonight. One way or the other. We want to talk about that deal that fell apart yesterday for Hunter Biden. I'm going to tell you the way things work. In real time, you get some of the story. But, when something that big happens and something that unexpected happens, you give it a day or so to percolate. And then you sometimes start to find out what really happened behind the scenes. And for me, it's completely unsavory what has happened here. Hunter Biden, as you know, yesterday we told you went in and he was expected to get a little rap on the knuckles, a little slap on the wrist, and he was off and he was going to be done, and his legal problems were all over. Except that the judge sort of blew that up in court by asking a series of questions. And so the question, is what really happened there? I'm going to give you some of it. Okay, first of all, this from the Washington Examiner. Lawyers for President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, were fuming hours after the tumultuous Wednesday court hearing that left the first son in legal limbo. Hunter Biden's attorneys were agitated by Judge Mary Ellen Noreika's thorough questioning of lawyers for the defense and prosecution on the terms of the plea deal agreed to. The interrogation revealed varying understandings of the deal from the two sides. I don't think that's true. I think they both knew exactly what they were doing. Hunter Biden reported Wednesday morning to a U.S. District Court, was expected to plead guilty to a misdemeanor charge as part of an announced plea deal. He was also expected to enter a diversion agreement on a felony gun charge. It was not much. It was a slap on the wrist, something much better than what you would have gotten or I would have gotten if we found ourselves facing the full onslaught investigation by the Department of Justice. But as I said, it fell apart during the hearing. A major sticking point for Noreika was a provision that would preclude the Department of Justice from enforcing the Foreign Agents Registration Act against Hunter Biden if he was found to be in violation. The DOJ said it would reserve the right to charge Hunter Biden under the act if it came to that. And that's when Hunter Biden's attorney said, "What? That's not our understanding." Well, too bad, then the deal's dead. That was all a bunch of play acting, I believe, for the courts for the witnesses, the people in the room who were witnessing this hearing, and maybe for the judge. Here is what I think really happened. And I think I want to point you to this story in townhall.com from Katie Pavlich, but really quoting extensively a former federal prosecutor by the name of Will Scharf. Will Scharf tweeted a lot of this out, and she picked up on it, and I think it rings true to me. It rings true to me. Here's what Will Scharf said, okay? Based on my conversations with people who were in the courtroom, my experience as a former federal prosecutor, I think I know the full story of what happened with the Hunter Biden plea agreement blow up. Bear with me, it's a bit complicated. Now, I don't want to go through this. He goes through a very thorough legal discussion about what happened. But I'm going to get you to sort of the conclusion. They put the facts of the case in a plea agreement, but put the non-prosecution agreement in something known as a pretrial diversion agreement, effectively hiding the full scope of what DOJ was offering and Hunter was obtaining through these proceedings. In other words, they were hiding some of the information in places you would not normally look, and it says to me that the defense lawyers for Hunter Biden and the prosecution were working in cahoots. Hunter's upside from this deal was vast immunity from further prosecution if he finished a couple of years of probation, and the public wouldn't be any the wiser because none of that was clearly stated on the face of the plea agreement, as would normally be the case. Judge Norika smelled a rat. She understood the lawyers were trying to paint her into a corner and hide the ball. Instead, she backed DOJ and Hunter's lawyers into a corner by pulling out all the details into the open and then indicating she wasn't going to approve a deal as broad as what she had discovered. They were trying to hide this from you, from me, from the American people, and it appears to me from the judge, which means, was there collusion between the defense team and the Department of Justice in order to get a sweetheart deal pushed through and nobody saw all the details of it? It sounds like this complicated legal analysis by Will Scharf is exactly what happened. The DOJ, attempting to save face and save its case, then stated on the record that the investigation into Hunter was ongoing. Oh, yeah, no, it's still going on. Don't worry, Judge. And that Hunter remains susceptible to prosecution under FARA, the Foreign Agents Act. Hunter's lawyers exploded. They clearly believed the FARA was covered under the deal because, as written, the pretrial diversion agreement language was broad enough to cover it. They blew up the deal. Hunter pled not guilty. And that's the current state of play. And so here we are. Hunter's lawyers and DOJ are going to go off and try to pull together a new set of agreements. Do you expect that the new set of agreements are going to be anything, like the old set of agreements? Yeah, I think maybe so. They need to satisfy the judge, and they left open the possibility that there would be a further investigation, further indictments under FARA, and that there was an investigation still underway, which they declined to describe in any detail. Is it against Hunter? Is it against Hunter and his dad? What's going on there? One way or the other, the judge was having none of it, and the judge was pretty upset when she found out what was going on, and now the whole deal is blown up. I think the prosecutors and the Department of Justice were doing exactly what we suspected them doing, having a different standard for people whose last name is Biden, having a different standard for people whose names are generally followed by the letter D. I think it's going to be a mess. By the way, just still another shoe to drop in this thing is what's going on with the House Oversight Committee. Hunter Biden's former business partner, Devin Archer, is said to be in hiding right now ahead of his bombshell testimony. He's supposed to show up on Capitol Hill, I think next Monday, for a closed-door session with the House Oversight Committee that will be transcribed and ultimately released. And he's expected to testify, and apparently in the meantime, out of fear for his life, one hears, he is in hiding. He does not want to be found. A source told the Daily Mail that Archer had received threats and was concerned for his and his family's safety. Archer's wife, Krista, confirmed that he wasn't in Washington, D.C., or either at their homes in New York. He's not here. He's not at our other home. He's not in D.C., she said. But Devin Archer's lawyer said he's not hiding. I don't know. Tell us where he is then. All right. So there is that. By the way, new conditions for Hunter's release. The defendant must not violate federal, state, or local law while he's out. The defendant must cooperate in the collection of a DNA sample if required. The defendant must advise the court or pretrial service offices or his supervising officer in writing before making any changes of residence or telephone number. Where does he live? Does he live in Delaware? Does he live at the beach house? Does he live at the White House? What is his official residence? I don't know. I'd like to know that. The defendant must appear in court as required, and if convicted, must surrender as directed. So just a few things that are now in his life. Meanwhile, there is a tremendous question about whether or not Joe Biden, because of all of this stuff that's going on and the investigation that's ongoing, is about to be impeached, or is that process about to start? It started when we heard the I word used by Kevin McCarthy. And I just want to tell you that he takes umbrage with the way some of the reporting has gone on this. He says we're not ready for impeachment. But what are we ready for? We'll get to that in just a moment. Right now, 20 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like when someone tells you it'll be ready at 4 and you show up at 4, it is not ready. People are really tired of those kind of things. If you've had it with unreliable vehicle repair shops, come to Eurofix. Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable, and Eurofix has your vehicle ready when it's really ready, so you don't have to stand around waiting. Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer without dealer pricing. And that's because dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of a dealership's overhead, and that's a lot of money. Why would you want to pay for that? At Eurofix, reliable also means a 3-year nationwide warranty plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Make sure you call ahead. Loaner cars are very popular. If you're tired of unreliable repair shops, come to where it's reliable. Eurofix, family-owned for 24 years. 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy clarifying his use of the I word. An Uber driver in Tennessee assaulted and a pay raise for a specific kind of airline workers. I'll have those stories and more at 5:30. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 24, almost 25 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair on this very hot Thursday. Well, it is July. It's late July. We're almost into the dog days of August. So it's not surprising that it's hot, but it's hot. So be careful out there. Take it easy. And if you're going to the Dixie Chicks, there's a sick chick and there will be no show tonight.
Maybe they'll let you get up on stage and sing a number or two.
I can assure you that will not happen.
Oh,
but I hope it's nothing serious. These things happen. Sometimes you want to give a good performance and you just don't feel like you're up to it. So that's fine. Okay, here we go. The word impeachment has crossed the lips of the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, and a lot of people went, "Whoa." He just said the I word, and does that mean that we are now moving toward an impeachment process? Well, he quibbles with that. He says he thinks that some people have gotten it wrong, what he's talking about. He's not talking about an actual impeachment, but a process known as an impeachment inquiry, where you start to look at the evidence to find out whether or not you have an impeachment case. And if you do make that determination and you go forward with an impeachment inquiry, then you are starting to look very seriously at the facts. Doesn't mean there's going to be an impeachment. Could be, may not be, one way or the other. There may not be an impeachment trial, but you got to know whether the facts back up that charge before you go there. And so the impeachment inquiry is the thing he's talking about.
There is a big difference. And let me explain it, because maybe not everybody understands it. What impeachment inquiry does when you vote on the floor, it gives you the apex of power of Congress. Okay? And just walk through what? We have 2 whistleblowers from the IRS claiming the Biden family were treated differently, that David Weiss let the statute of limitations run out. The basic rule of thumb in any case, when you're getting the statute of limitations coming up within 6 months, you get an extension based upon the individuals. They said the Bidens were willing to do that. They should do that now. We have an individual that we now found went to the FBI a number of years ago claiming that they bribed the president and said you couldn't find the money because all the shell companies, it's the 1023. We found that when then Attorney General Barr found it, that he sent it to the Pennsylvania Justice, and they said there's more to it. When does an attorney out-investigate the FBI? We then found that the president, Biden, while running for office, made a couple claims. He first looked the public in the eye and said, I've never spoken to my son about any business dealings. He said, my family has not taken one dime from China. In part of this investigation, we found that when the vice president became vice president, his family created 20 shell companies, kind of like what the 1023 said would happen. We found that 16 of the 17 payments from Romania came to the president while he was vice president. We now found that money did come from China, differently said. We've now found the president has changed what he said, but we have a real question about David Weiss and the Attorney General and the other 6 people in the meeting. It's contradictive based upon what the IRS agents said and asked questions and took notes from the meetings and emailed everybody about those notes. Now, if you're any member of Congress, this is not saying impeachment. This is not anything but we need to investigate. And what happens, like you watched the situation yesterday, where the federal government says there's still an investigation of the Bidens. Well, the only way you'll be able to get information that way is to have the strength to be able to get the documents you need. I was concerned when asked a question that I haven't seen an administration act this way at the same time as Nixon did by withholding information. If they do not provide the information we need, then we would go to an impeachment inquiry. Impeachment inquiry, which simply is an investigation and providing Congress the power to do that investigation. So I'm glad you asked a question that I could clarify that you misinterpreted and misstated. Last question.
Sort of took a shot at the reporter there who had asked the question because he took umbrage with the way that his answer had been translated in that person's story. Look, I think that, it is a good idea. We've got whistleblowers. We've got Devin Archer giving a transcribed deposition on Monday, and that guy knows where all the bodies are buried. We have a tremendous amount of information that's come in because the House Oversight Committee has subpoena power, and they've been going after the bank records. We've already caught the Biden family in a series of lies. First of all, they say, well, I never discussed it. Well, we have evidence that they did discuss it. A lot of evidence that indeed Joe Biden was looped in on a regular basis. We have pictures of them at a golf outing. We got all kinds of stuff going on here that suggests that was a lie. And now they've changed their tune and said, well, he wasn't in business with them. Well, what does that mean? We're going to find out. But I think the speaker is right. We are getting to the point now where information is coming in so fast and furious. Perhaps we do need an impeachment inquiry. Might happen in the fall. And if there's an impeachment process that develops out of that, it might even be the first of next year. But it seems to me that, things are percolating in that direction, and I think the speaker is right to suggest it. 30 minutes now, past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
.531, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 98 degrees and a hot one and a hot few days ahead. No rain in sight for the next 5 or 6 days. Sometime mid-next week till we'll see showers. And a heat advisory in effect for the next hour and a half today. And then from noon to 7 tomorrow could see heat indexes up to 107 degrees. Complete forecast, latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. Some breaking news right now. Former President Donald Trump is facing additional charges in the Justice Department's classified documents investigation. These additional allegations of obstruction and willful retention of national defense information were added to the indictment today by Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith's team of prosecutors. And over the nation's capital, Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy clarified his recent comments about opening an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. McCarthy pointed out to reporters today that he specifically used the word inquiry. The speaker said it would happen if the Biden administration does not comply with their requests.
If they do not provide the information we need, then we would go to an impeachment inquiry. Impeachment inquiry, which simply is an investigation and providing Congress the power to do that investigation.
Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 says that camera footage shows a passenger assaulting an Uber driver. That passenger has now been identified as 57-year-old Stephen Wade Shalabu, a Franklin real estate agent and builder. Shalabu was previously employed at Bob Parks Realty before his license expired, selling homes as recent as 2022. This is not Shalabu's first run-in with the laws. He was charged with strangulation 2 years ago before that case was dismissed. The attack happened because the driver allegedly let a female passenger exit the vehicle when Shalabu did not want her to leave. The driver said that his neck and back are still sore after getting attacked. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, listen, I want to tout you on something, let you know about something that's going to be happening on August 17th, about 10:30 over in Cool Springs at the Marriott. It's a Beacon Capital Management Market Halftime Report. A chance for you to sit down and listen to the expertise of the folks over at Beacon Capital Management to make sure that, you're doing everything you need to be doing to make a good retirement for yourself and that your investments are the right investments. Maybe you need a little tweak. They'll give you their outlook. They'll give you their best advice. And all you got to do is call a number and start the process. It's 615-488-9303. 615-488-9303. And I'm going to be there at 10:30 to welcome you there and to have some opening remarks. So I hope that you'll consider possibly doing this on the 17th of August at 10:30 a.m. at the Marriott in Cool Springs. Here's the number to get it all set up and get your name in the hat for that event, 615-488-9303. Beacon Capital Management, I talk about them all the time. I think they're good, solid folks who can give you good, solid advice and take away the worry. Learn more by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It's 38 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Hotter than blue blazes out there. 96, 97, someplace. What do you got there, Chris, on your camera?
I'm still seeing a 97.
97, but the feel-like temperature's like 100.
Or 200 or something, yeah.
Take it easy out there. We're in the midst of the hottest days. And we're heading into late July, early August. This is when it gets hot for us. It's not a shock, not a surprise, but one way or the other, it does mean that we need to temper ourselves from hot temperatures.
Just because we expect it doesn't mean we have to like it.
That's we don't have to like it, and
No.
and what good is living in the South if you can't complain about the heat? What is the humidity? I just got to check that real quick. I've got my little app here. 49%.
Ooh.
The dew point is 72. Visibility is virtually unlimited. Barometric pressure, 30.00 and falling.
I'm glad we got that in there.
Yeah. I used to be a weather guy. Did you know I did TV news weather?
Yeah, you've told me that before.
I did. I was like, here's how it happened. I was working in Amarillo, and in small market radio, you do a lot of things. People have to go on vacation, and you don't have, often in those days when, that was before you had 7 newscasts a day. We had an early evening and then a later evening newscast, and the weather guy at Channel 4 in Amarillo was a guy by the name of Roy McCoy.
Oh, that's a good name.
And he was a legend in this market. Legendary Roy McCoy. But Roy had to go on vacation sometimes, or, needed to take a day off now and then, and they needed somebody to fill in. And so they said, Wilson, go in there and work with Roy and figure out how to do a weathercast in front of a big map and do that whole thing. I said, okay. I went in there and I learned it, and then for a few days while Roy was gone, I would come in and do the weather. And I learned about, stationary fronts, cold fronts, warm fronts, occluded fronts. I learned about this. I learned about that. We had a radar. I'm not making this up. The radar actually came out of the belly of a B-52. And it would spot thunder showers and occasionally, apparently, Russian military aircraft. I'm not sure.
Aircraft,
yeah. I don't know what it was. But I mean, that's what it was. So, I learned to do it there. And so then but I was mostly a reporter. Occasionally, I was an anchor. And then I changed changed TV stations there in the midst there, and went to work for another station. And again, they found out, well, Wilson, you used to fill in for Roy. Can you fill in over here when we need somebody to do a little weather now and then? I said, okay, fine. And then one day I was downtown. I was in the middle of a big court hearing, and I get called, you've got to come to the station right away. I said, why? We just come right now. Okay. Well, the person who had been doing the weather at the station had tendered her resignation.
Uh-oh.
And they said, we need you to focus on, not on the trial, but focus on doing the weather until we figure this out. I did it for about 9 months.
Mm.
And in fact, the only reason that I wasn't still doing it was I got a better offer to move to another town and do something else.
And not do weather.
Yeah. To actually anchor the news, which I thought was the biggest thing ever. And so, but I did it for a long time, and I wasn't bad at it.
And this is before the green screen days, right?
Oh, no. We had a green screen, but it wasn't as good. But I mean, there were actual physical maps. And I just tell you, the maps, for example, I would put these little magnetic numbers, which were the temperatures, which I had to call around to about 35 radio stations every day and across the Texas Panhandle to get the exact temperature in Paducah.
Mm.
Paducah, Texas, not Paducah, Kentucky. Or maybe Kittiquay. You got to have the important temperature, the high temperature from Kittiquay.
Yeah.
Or one of those other little towns, Perryton. Whatever. I did that, and then I would there was a giant green screen which we put up the radar or the satellite on. You could see the satellite, and the satellite image was black and white.
Yeah.
As compared to what we have today. And then that's a big map of the nation, the United States, would come down. And what it was, I had a button. It was a garage door opener. I would push a button on a garage door owner, and you would hear it off in the other room. It would lower the map down in front of the green screen, and then I would do that, and then I'd push the button again, and a second one came down, and it was the Texas Panhandle, and I had all the local temperatures on it, and like that.
Different world.
It was a different world. Now they've got all of these amazing, and the technology started to change shortly after I got out of that. But I really enjoyed doing the weather, and I thought it was fun. There was just one thing: everybody else in the market was a meteorologist, and I wasn't.
Mm.
And I thought, well, let's go to meteorological school. And guess what I found out? First thing I learned about meteorological school.
What's that?
Required math.
Well, strikes you out.
Yeah, so I didn't do that. I didn't go and get my meteorological degree. But again, I did move back to my hometown and became an anchorman, and the rest of the series of moves after that led me to the nation's capital and eventually here.
There you go.
But every once in a while, I like to throw out a term like anomalous propagation.
Yeah,
that's what you're seeing right there on the screen. That's anomalous propagation.
I think someone texted earlier saying they learned a new word from you today.
What's that?
I forget what it was, though.
Well, did I make it up? Because sometimes I do that.
I think it was a real word.
Anomalous propagation, which is basically radar clutter. Because, our radar was from the belly of a B-52. So it wasn't the best thing. Anyway, that was a lot of fun back in those days. There really was something about television news during those days. I have very fond feelings of them because, there were no rules about how you do this, and news gathering had changed with the advent of getting rid of the film cameras and having live cameras, video cameras that we took into the field. They were heavy as what, and they backbreaking, really carrying all that gear in the field back in those days. But it gave us so much flexibility, and we were learning new and different things, and I got to use a helicopter for a while, and I got to chase news anywhere I wanted to go. And really, it was a real learning thing. In fact, you know what? I learned one thing. It was really shocking. I'll just give you one more story. Is that when I went to finally got to Mobile, Alabama, and I was Mobile, Washington, and then on from there. But in Mobile, I got ready to go to edit my story one day, like one of the first days I was there, and I was headed to the edit booth with my script. And there was a thing there called the managing editor. He said, "Where are you going, Wilson?" I said, "I'm going to the edit room to cut my piece and get it ready for the news tonight." He said, "Well, you haven't had that script approved." And I went, "You approve scripts?" No, nobody had ever looked at one of my scripts up until that point. And I'd been in television news at that point maybe 5-6 years. Nobody had ever looked at one of my scripts. And so he looked at it and made me go back and rewrite it just because he could. And then I would go into the edit room. So it was a learning experience.
By the way, the word of the day from Steve down in the borough, he says he learned dilatory.
Dilatory.
Yeah, you used that earlier in the show.
You're dragging your feet. You're being dilatory. You are, and that's what I'm telling you is going on with the Department of Justice and Hunter Biden. Mitch McConnell the other day had a thing where he sort of froze up. It went like this. He's standing in front of the cameras, and he started, and the words just wouldn't come. Sort of like being in talk radio at times. The words just would not come.
In cooperation and a string of...
And that went for about 30 seconds, 20 seconds or so, I think, before somebody stepped up and noticed that something was wrong. He just locked. You could tell something was not right at all. And finally, John Barrasso, senator from Wyoming, who's also a doctor, stepped up.
Are you good?
Okay, Mitch?
You okay, Mitch?
Anything else you want to say? Or should I just go back to your office? Do you want to say anything else to the press?
And they handled it gingerly, and he stepped away for a few moments. He actually did come back and spoke and answered questions and seemed sharp, according to those around him. Speaker McCarthy was asked this question today. How do you feel about Mitch McConnell? Are you worried about him at all? And Speaker McCarthy said, absolutely not.
First, let me tell you, I have no concern. I actually met with Leader McConnell twice yesterday after this incident. I met with him at 3 o'clock. He came in. We have a regular meeting. We talk about the future legislation we have going, appropriations, what's happening in the Senate. And then later that night, there was an event on Major League Baseball where he gave a speech, and I spoke after him. So, no, I have no concern.
Said he was fine. But it was all there for everybody to see. Some of these television doctors said, well, it looked like he had maybe a mini stroke or something like that. We don't know. But whatever it is, it apparently cleared very quickly. But it's one of those things. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, right? Dianne Feinstein, who's also been talked about in this regard. She's, can you look up real quick, Chris, her age? I forgot to do that again. But Dianne Feinstein was voting, and all she had to do was just go aye. Just, okay, here it is. What is it? Do you have it?
She is 90 years old.
90 years old.
Yes.
And she's had some medical issues, and she's been out for a while, but now she's back. And all she had to do during they were doing the tallying of the vote, reading the vote off. They call the name. The senator says aye or nay. That's all that was required. She seemed a little confused.
I would like to support a yes vote on this. It provides $823 billion. That's an increase of $26 billion for the Department of Defense, and it funds priorities submitted.
Yeah, just say aye.
Okay, just aye.
And that was embarrassing, but it's not the first time. And she looks weak. She looks like, she's not always there, not fully engaged. So what do we do about this? I mean, I think one of the things that may come up at some point is do we need to have a change in our laws so that there is an upper limit? But then what do you do about people like my father-in-law, who's way up into his 80s, and I'm telling you, the guy's as sharp as a tack. I've never met a man who was in his 80s who looked like he's in his 50s. I mean, it's scary how good this guy gets around in his mid-80s, and the things that he can do. Still very active and building stuff. He's quite the craftsman. So I don't know what the answer is, but it seems to me you're not doing the best interest of the people when you are not able to give them your full abilities. And so I think there are going to be more questions about this in the days ahead, about whether or not we need an upper limit on how old you can be and still serve as the president, as a member of the Senate or the House. We'll see. 51 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. All right, with the heat that we got going on right now, don't wait for a problem to pop up with your air conditioner. Whether you need annual maintenance, repair, or replacement of your heating and air conditioning system, call the people I trust, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner. You got a problem with your air conditioner, they will buzz right over, and they'll get you back up and running. And they'll give you all your options. And they will tell you if it's time to replace, but that's not always the first thing. But if it really needs to be replaced, you really need to know, and they'll give you a good deal on replacement systems if that is what you need. You need to be a member of the Beehive Club. I think it's a great way to go. For as little as $99, you get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems. One aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges, 24/7, 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, just call this number, 615-775-7833. Online at busybeehvac.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. And one of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now, we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now, we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
You know, we talk all the time about the diamonds at Genesis Diamonds because that's their specialty. Diamonds are not a side business for Genesis. It's the core of what they are. That's why Genesis has 30-plus years connections in the industry. It's how they can truly cut out layers of middlemen and their markups. It's how Genesis can maintain a diamond selection that's up to 30 times what you would find at other stores. This is a diamond powerhouse, whether you're looking for a half carat or a 20-carat diamond. But don't forget, Genesis also has case after case of exquisite fashion jewelry, earrings, bracelets, pendants, bands, colored gemstones, gold jewelry. The list just goes on and on. And Genesis has partnered with all the top designers in the jewelry world, top designers from New York, California, with handcrafted pieces, one-of-a-kind heirloom jewelry. On top of all that, they have the largest selection of pre-owned Rolex watches in America. If you've been wanting one, this is the place to go. Hundreds to pick from. Best part about Genesis, the people. Nobody's on commission there. They work in your best interest, and they have a passion for making every customer a raving fan. Whatever you need in jewelry, this is the hands-down best place to go. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
.601, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories right now. 96 degrees. That heat index could get up to 107 today and tomorrow. Heat advisory in effect until 7 today from noon to 7 tomorrow. Stay shaded and hydrated. Forecast latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Some new charges against former President Donald Trump. Here's Dave Packer.
A new development in connection to the federal classified documents investigation at Mar-a-Lago. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy with the latest.
The superseding indictment adds a defendant, and it adds additional charges. The crux of tonight's allegation is that Donald Trump sought to delete security camera footage from Mar-a-Lago, video that showed his body man, Walt Nauta, moving boxes allegedly at Trump's direction.
That third defendant, Carlos de Oliveira, is a current Trump org employee and also the head of maintenance at Mar-a-Lago. The charges against him were not immediately revealed. That superseding indictment that was returned by a grand jury in the Southern District of Florida also adds 4 charges to the prior indictment filed against Donald Trump and Walt Nauta, and it adds a new count 32 charging Trump with 1 additional count of willful retention of national defense information. All this after lawyers for Trump met for an hour with special counsel Jack Smith's team on Thursday.
In the nation's capital, Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy clarified his recent comments about opening an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. McCarthy pointed out to reporters today that he specifically used that word, inquiry. The speaker said it would happen if the Biden administration does not comply with their requests.
If they do not provide the information we need, then we would go to an impeachment inquiry. Impeachment inquiry, which simply is an investigation and providing Congress the power to do that investigation.
In Memphis, the U.S. Department of Justice opening a civil rights investigation into the city of Memphis and the Memphis Police Department to determine whether there's a pattern or practice of conduct that violates the Constitution or federal civil rights law. The Tennessean says the U.S. Justice Department announced it this morning as part of the ongoing investigation into the police officer-involved death of Tyree Nichols. And LeBron James' son, Bronny James, has now been discharged from the hospital after suffering a sudden cardiac arrest during a basketball practice at USC on Monday. Bronny says that he gives thanks to the swift and effective response by USC athletics. And LeBron James came out on social media to say that they'll say more on this matter when they're ready, and they thanked everyone for the outpouring support. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. 1 hour left, and then we'll hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one. I know that Mark is going to have some time to dig through this, and as a guy who really understands the law, I'd be very fascinated to hear what he has to say about this breaking development in the last. I think the story's broken in the last 30 minutes or so. And here's what I've got. This is from the Wall Street Journal, okay? New Trump indictment says he ordered Mar-a-Lago camera footage deleted. Indictment also charges that Carlos de Oliveira, a maintenance worker at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, it also charges him. Okay, here we go. Special counsel Jack Smith on Thursday brought more charges against Donald Trump related to his retention of classified documents after he left the White House, alleging the former president and his aides have sought to have surveillance footage deleted so it couldn't be turned over to a grand jury. The new indictment also charges Carlos de Oliveira, a maintenance worker at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, making him the third defendant charged in the case. Charges broaden an indictment brought by a Florida grand jury alleging the former president held on to sensitive documents that he knew he should not have retained, is their allegation. Shared with them others and directed his staff to help him evade authorities' efforts to get them back. That is the allegation. That is the charge against him. You know, the former president, I think, has a pretty strong case here when he says, I was always able to have these documents. There was nothing wrong at all with me having these documents because I could declassify them at will. I don't know. Look, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I thought, when we got into the whole thing about documents and we found out that there were, I don't know how many boxes of documents that were at the Biden house, right there next to the Corvette, and other places, even documents that he was in possession of that were considered top secret from the days when he was a senator. Seemed pretty clear that he shouldn't have had that. And when I thought that happened, I said, well, this whole thing with Trump is not going anywhere. This has happened in the last few moments. I will predict that the result of this will be negligible, because every time they bring an indictment against Trump, his numbers go up, as I will share with you in a moment. So that is the new development. This morning, now Trump lawyers were Todd Blanche and John Lauro met with Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, special counsel, in his office. And the long thought was, a lot of the thinking about that was that there were going to be some indictments that came down from the January 6th probe that Jack Smith is also responsible for. Whether or not that is still a possibility, I don't know. But most people were taking this as Trump's attorneys were going over to meet with the special counsel as the January 6th indictments might be coming, and wanted to offer exculpatory information. Exculpatory information. Information that would bolster the president's case. Now, that's what we thought was going on. And then when it came time, the grand jury met in the afternoon, and then apparently no indictments came down with regard to that. But now we are hearing there are more indictments that have to do with Mar-a-Lago and the documents there. So I don't know what it is. Not sure exactly. This, I guarantee you, give it a couple of hours and this will shake out. We'll know more about it. But the bottom line is, this is a day where more charges are being brought against the former president. And if you look at the numbers, there is nothing that suggests that Trump is going to have any impact from all this. In fact, here's a story. Former President Donald Trump continues to dominate the Republican primary field as his lead over Governor DeSantis has grown 10 points in 2 weeks, according to a YouGov Economist poll. The survey published Wednesday shows that 54% of registered Republicans and independents who plan to vote in their state's Republican presidential primary back Trump. He's climbed 6 points since another YouGov Economist poll, was taken July 8th through the 11th. So Trump's at 54, DeSantis 18. That's a 36-point lead that Trump has over DeSantis. And again, every time a special counsel brings another indictment, Trump's numbers go up. DeSantis 18, Ramaswamy 6, Pence 3, Haley 3, Scott 3, Christie 1 in this YouGov poll. I'm telling you, he's solid. He's very, very solid. I don't think anything's going to happen there. It's his to lose. And how this all works and how this all comes down, I don't know. But in the mind of Republican Party voters, the Trump brand is still very strong. Very, very strong. I can look at some other numbers. Let's see, National GOP. All right, so listen to some of this. The Economist YouGov poll has Trump leading DeSantis by 36. The Morning Consult poll, which we just read you, this is from yesterday, Trump leads DeSantis by 43. Rasmussen has Trump leading DeSantis by 44. Harvard-Harris has Trump leading DeSantis by 40. Monmouth, Trump leading by 32. Quinnipiac, Trump leading by 29. And by the way, that's all the way back to the 13th of July. So, I mean, you see these, when you take all of the numbers on this page and average them out, as the folks at Real Clear Politics do, it has Trump leading DeSantis by 34. But I will share this with you. In the last 4 polls, it's Trump leading by 40, Trump leading by 44, Trump leading by 43, and Trump leading by 36. The most recent polls. So Trump's doing okay with Republican voters who don't believe any of this, but what will be the long-term impact, not sure. We'll see how that all plays out. By the way, Trump has endorsed something that I think is really important. Former President Donald Trump has endorsed the Republican Party's new election strategy that seeks to turn out voters early, including provisions for early voting and ballot harvesting where it's allowed. Republican National Committee, the RNC, launched Bank Your Vote campaign earlier last month, actually, to encourage Republicans to vote before Election Day. It includes efforts to increase absentee voting, in-person early voting, ballot harvesting, where absentee votes are collected en masse and deposited in election offices. And, of course, that's only in states where the practice is legal. Some states it is not. And Trump has endorsed the strategy in a video that was released on Wednesday. He says the RNC leading the fight to help secure your vote in 2024. They're fighting bad Democrat laws, putting folks on the ground to serve as poll workers and poll watchers, and engaging attorneys to monitor every step of the voting process. He says go to bankyourvote.com, sign up, and commit to vote early. I've never been a big fan of voting early. I think that I want to wait until all the facts are in and vote on Election Day. But you know what? We're going to have to sort of give up on that quaint notion, I think. Because the Democrats are really good about banking these votes, putting them, in there early. Vote early, vote often, I guess is the way it works. I don't know. But I'll tell you, they're putting a lot of votes in the bank. And then when it comes to Election Day, let's say, you had every intention of voting, but then something crops up. Weather turns bad. You don't want to stand in 100-degree temperature. You don't want to stand in the cold, whatever it is, for one reason or not, you don't go. And at the end of the day, the Democrats already have theirs in, and it's hard to overcome that early lead that they have because the numbers have been in for weeks, if not months. We're going to have to play that game. That's just all there is to it. So get ready to think differently in these elections as we go forward. So to recap, it's been a very interesting day. We thought that perhaps there was going to be an indictment that came down today with regards to the January 6th investigation that Jack Smith is doing. That did not happen. There was a meeting with the Trump attorneys this morning with the special prosecutor. That was this morning. And then just a few moments ago comes word that there have been new indictments that have been lowered or handed up by the special prosecutor. And it has to do with the documents at Mar-a-Lago. And the allegation, the indictment levels, is that Trump ordered Mar-a-Lago camera footage deleted at some point. We'll see how that goes. Watching it very closely. All right. By the way, in Washington, just another little story that I'd like to get into the record today. The Supreme Court reinstates a major gas pipeline in a blow to environmental groups. This is a big win for Joe Manchin. This decision to let construction of the Mountain Valley Pipeline move forward again is the correct one, says Joe Manchin. So the Supreme Court struck down a lower court ruling from earlier this month that blocked construction of the 303-mile Mountain Valley Pipeline. In short, the unsigned order issued Thursday morning, the Supreme Court vacated the July 10th stay orders from the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, in which the lower court sided with plaintiffs, environmental groups, Wilderness Society, Appalachian Voices, which had sued to stop the pipeline construction. The Fourth Circuit ruling was opposed by the Biden administration. How about that? The bipartisan lawmakers and the fossil fuel industry. Whatever benefits respondents of the court appeal might believe would be gained by having the agencies again reconsider the challenged actions, Congress has determined that the further reconsideration is unwarranted and has prioritized the Mountain Valley Pipeline timely completion. A big win. That judgment is for Congress to make, and the others did not have a winning argument. You don't normally have the high court come in with an unsigned statement and completely just blow away a lower court ruling without the opportunity for the thing to be reconsidered and re-argued. They simply said, no, you don't have an argument. Congress had the right to do this, and you don't have any say in the matter. So the U.S. Supreme Court has let this pipeline, this Mountain Valley Pipeline, go forward, a blow to environmentalists who had stood in its way, and a victory for Joe Manchin, who had sought its construction. 20 minutes now, past the hour of 6 o'clock. Grace Point delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing, so you will know how much it costs before the care is delivered. Smart Care plans start at $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year, and they treat the entire family, even newborns, so they offer family plans as well. Here's how it works to your advantage. You can marry the Smart Care plans with your high-deductible insurance plan, and you could end up saving you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast to Music City year after year after year. And Grace Point wants you to know seasonal allergies are here. Grace Point can give you the testing and the treatment so you can go back and enjoy the great outdoors. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868 to schedule a visit. It is 24 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair. Glad you're with us as we wind down this show today and get ready to hand it over to Mark Levin. A reminder that it's hot outside. Be careful. I guess we're now past the high of the day. What was the high of the day? Do we know?
I would assume it was 97, but I don't know officially. I know it's down to 95 now.
I've got 93 on mine, and you had feel like temperatures well above 100 today. So, it really was tough.
Oh, 98. I just saw it. It says 98 was the high.
98, your official high for the day.
That was at 2 o'clock.
Okay. All right. About an hour before I started. All right. Well, listen, that's good. Be careful out there and take it easy. It's hot. It got me out of having to mow tonight, so I'm sort of excited about that. New home sales have cratered 2.5%. Commerce Department says new home sales fell 2.5% in June compared to the previous month, and that's not a good sign for a healthy economy, but it has to do with interest rates. That's really what it's all about. Despite the decline, sales were 23.8% above a year ago level, which means it's better than it was, but not as good as it was the month before. All right. The U.S. economic growth accelerates. This is supposed to be pretty good news, but anytime you start talking about the economy, when you start talking about an economy that is accelerating and growing and defying slowdown expectations, you'd think that's good news. It's not necessarily good news. It can be bad news. The economy grew 2.4% last quarter, suggesting the U.S. is steering clear of a recession. And you think, well, that's good news. Well, where's the bad news? Well, the markets didn't like it. Today, the markets, let me see if I can get this. The markets closed all in red. Dow Jones Industrial was headed for a 14-day streak, which would have been something that hadn't happened in almost 40 years. Dow Jones Industrials fell by 237 today. The S&P down S&P 500 down 29, NASDAQ down 77. What am I getting at here? Why is this not necessarily good news? I'll tell you why. Because when you have the economy heated up, it means that they are going to have to continue the interest rates bumps. We just got through a quarter-point bump, but they're not going to stop that anytime soon because the economy is still pretty hot. They need to cool the economy so they can bring down the interest rates and change everything. But that's going to take a little while, and so the markets, I think, today figured that out. Pre-market trading, all the indices are in green, but not a lot of action there. All right, so there you have all of that. Gross domestic product grew seasonally and inflation 2.4%. The Commerce Department said that was faster than economists had expected and above the 2% growth. Consumer spending cooled but rose enough to drive overall growth alongside much strong. A lot of it was business investment in the second quarter. We've turned the corner on the risk here, and instead of being heavily weighted to recession, it's balanced between recession and not recession, says one economist. The Fed raised its benchmark interest rate Wednesday by a quarter point. We're now somewhere between 5.25 and 5.5, a 22-year high on interest rates. We had it so good for so long. Sort of hard, to look at those numbers going up. But, I mean, remember, they wasn't always that way. I remember times when interest rates were much higher than, we would have thought 5%, 6%, 7% was a bargain. But it's been so low for so long, I think that that's where we are. It is now 29 minutes. Let's call it 30 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. It's 36 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Just a few more minutes before we hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one, at 7 p.m., and he will carry on. I'm so glad that you're with us on this, what has been a very hot day, a very big news day. All kinds of stuff has been breaking. And yesterday, we had some stuff that we need to revisit, okay? I put it all off until toward the end of the show because I know people look at me and say, Wilson, do you really believe there's little green men? Do you really believe that there's aliens? I don't know what to believe. But I tell you, when I hear some very, very buttoned-up aviators testify under oath to certain things that they have witnessed, and I look at some of the video, it says there's something going on out there that doesn't make sense to me. And I think we ought to be all about figuring out what it is. And I'm getting the sense that our government, if they're on it, that they're still not giving us all the information that is out there. And I think there's a real valid reason why we should be concerned about it. Number one, the technology far outstrips anything that we have in development or we have out there right now. The general sense is that our opponents on the world stage, the Chinese and the Russians, they don't have anything like this. Because if they did, do you think that the Russians would hesitate to use this kind of technology in Ukraine? It would be over in 10 minutes. If they had it, they would use it. The same is true for the Chinese. I mean, they would just march right into Taiwan, and that would be the end of it, and we couldn't do a thing about it because if they had this technology, if this was them, we wouldn't be able to stop them. And I guess that's my greatest concern as I really think about this more deeply. The fact that the technology is so amazing that has been witnessed that we better be about trying to figure out what it is. We better be about trying to reverse engineer it, and we better get it first. It's like, there's a big movie out right now about Oppenheimer and the development of the nuclear weapon. That was an arms race that we won and that we got it first. Can you imagine what would have happened if, let's say, the Nazis had gotten a hold of this technology during the day and they had it first? So, we must win this race to figure out what these things are. And if there is technology that we can learn from, as apparently they say there is, we need to be all about that. And we need to be straight up with people about it. I listened to David Fravor, who was a wing commander. He says, we have nothing that can stop in midair and go the other direction. Nor do we have anything that can, like in our situation, come down from space, hang out for 3 hours, and then go back up. Then there was retired Navy pilot Ryan Graves, who testified that these UAPs or UFOs are more prevalent than has been known. As we convene here, UAPs are in our airspace, but they are grossly underreported, he says. The former F-18 pilot said he and his crew had seen objects do what no military craft can do, this is amazing, including hovering at zero airspeed and staying completely stationary in what would be the equivalency of Category 4 hurricane winds, and then accelerating to supersonic speeds. Graves says, in his testimony, that the UAP sightings became so frequent during his service that air crews would discuss them and the risk of flying in the same airspace with them as part of their regular pre-flight briefs. They would sit down and talk about, well, if any of them, UFOs or UAPs show up, what are we going to do? What's our plan? Says Graves, and I think this is fascinating. If everyone could see the sensor and video data that I have witnessed, our national conversation would change. All right, so look, there are some things we can't explain. There's some things that have been captured, but why is it so difficult for Congress to get information about that? And what is the need for overall secrecy? Why can't they share this? Then there was the testimony of David Grush, who says, yeah, we've got crashed UAPs, and some of them maintain biologics. And we've been trying to reverse engineering for a long, long time. Well, if so, if that is true, and here's my question about that, why haven't we seen some remarkable progress being made by our country? Why have we not heard that? Why haven't we not seen it? Is it just that difficult to figure out? Maybe we don't understand things and we can't figure it out? I don't know. But if we had them, wouldn't we do everything we could to take that to our advantage? Why would that be a secret? Why wouldn't you want to exploit that technology before our enemies on the world stage do the same thing? I don't know. There are more questions there, but I will tell you, I think we need to know more about these things, not necessarily just because we want to know if they're little green men or if we're alone in the universe. I think it's a national security concern, and we need to know what these things are. And if indeed we have captured crash wreckage and then they're let's figure it out so that we have the technology before our enemies on the world stage get it. It's the same kind of thing as back in Oppenheimer's day. We need to know those answers. All right, moving on. Couple of things that I want to talk about with regard to the entertainment, where this is completely different, changing gears completely. You may read that Jason Aldean has edited his video, Try That in a Small Town, which is a great song. It is true that it has been re-edited and resubmitted, but a lot of the stories that are written seem to suggest, well, it's because Jason Aldean had second thoughts. He's backing down from the criticism, who said this was not the kind of video that we want to see, saying that, you're suggesting certain things happen in small towns, and that, they just thought it was too aggressive. And I would say, no, I don't think so. I think the song accurately portrays the way people look at life in small town America. I think he's hit upon something. So why the edit? Well, I found one story. There are many stories out there about this, but see if you find one that tells you why it was edited. Didn't have anything to do with him having second thoughts. Didn't have anything to do with him thinking twice about the song and are submitting to the pressure that had been leveled against him. It all has to do with lawyers getting involved. Okay, here's the thing. The music video for Jason Aldean's latest hit, according to the Post Millennial, is now 6 seconds shorter after footage from an Atlanta Black Lives Matter riot was removed over copyright issues. A source close to the situation told the New York Post the footage showing cars set on fire in the city came from Fox 5 Atlanta. Now, when you do a video like this, you just can't use it without permission. You have to get permission. The source said the production company that made the video, Tacklebox Films, contacted Fox 5 in Atlanta to ask permission to use the local affiliate clip in the video. They claimed that Fox asked for more information about the song, including its lyrics. Tacklebox said they sent Fox a link to the song, and then they went forward. Everything seemed to be okay. But when the music video for the song was uploaded to YouTube on July 14th, the footage was seen projected onto, remember this footage was from Black Lives Matter riot, was seen projected onto the Murray County Courthouse in Columbia, Tennessee in the video. The source said that Fox reached out to Tacklebox and gave them what they called a polite ultimatum to remove the footage or face legal action. In other words, Fox decided they didn't want their video being used in that video. And so it wasn't that he pulled his punch. It wasn't that he was worried. It wasn't that the people were criticizing him and he was folding his tent. It was because lawyers said, we don't want you to use that. You no longer have our permission. And it had to come out. So there is that. You're not going to hear that in many places. I want to make sure you knew the real reason. I don't know what in the hell is ever going to happen to Yellowstone. Nobody knows when we're going to see the end of season 5. Nobody can tell me that. But I continue to be astonished and amazed at the creative mind of one Taylor Sheridan, who does Yellowstone, done a bunch of other things. Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan's new show has been trashed in some quarters as shameless military propaganda. But I'm got to tell you, I watched this show, and I thought it was a really good. Have you seen the show Lioness?
I have not.
It's on Netflix. And Taylor Sheridan, is that right? No, I'm wrong. It's on Paramount Plus.
Okay, gotcha.
I apologize because I want to make sure you get that right. On Paramount Plus. So apparently this thing, it's Lioness, if I can sort of explain it. The idea was that they were going to have certain operators working for the CIA who were women who would get close to other women who were connected to our terrorist targets. And by becoming friends with the women who were having relationships with the terrorist targets, they would be able to track them down and kill them. And so, I mean, I'm telling you, I don't know how much of this is based in truth. I don't know what, but I'm telling you, it's a good story, and it's a good military story, and I can't wait for the next episode to come out. I think I've seen 2 of them so far, and it's really quite good. Got some big names in here. Nicole Kidman, Morgan Freeman, and then you have 2 female leads, Zoe Saldana, and I hope I say this right, Laisla de Oliveira. To go undercover to work gains trust of the women within that world. It's like most of stories these days. The language is a little rough, and you got to pay attention to that kind of thing. But I thought it was quite good. I don't know what we're going to do. When are we ever going to know the fate of John Dutton in Yellowstone? How they? Because I don't know when. They have not said one definitive word yet about when that's going to all be put to bed.
Guess you'll have to ask Costner's ex-wife. Maybe she knows.
Maybe she knows something about it. I don't know. Something going on. And then finally, I just found this interesting. The folks at Southwest Airlines, I love Southwest Airlines. I fly Southwest Airlines a lot. It goes to places I want to go. I've figured out how to work their system so I get a pretty good seat, and I'm happy to do that. And so that's why I like Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines is revamping its flight schedule as they say consumer travel has changed. The carrier's shares fell nearly 6% in pre-market trading as this word got out, but the airline said the demand for vacation travel remains very strong. A lot of people are flying to go somewhere on vacation, but business travel is down. Its recovery since the pandemic has not happened. And so they're having to stop and think about, well, do we continue to provide travel for the business traveler who's going to perhaps different places than the vacation traveler? And they have apparently decided that they're going to have to make these changes and do away with some flights. Among the changes, Southwest will fly less on Tuesdays. I don't know why. Pull back from some short-haul markets and trim early morning and late-night flights, according to what they said to CNBC. Business travel hasn't fully bounced back. Leisure travel and trips that blur the lines between leisure and business are taking on new importance. There are some indications that domestic travel has cooled off as more travelers have looked abroad. But Southwest said that the vacation travel is resilient and demand is high for leisure travel and was way up in July, but the business traveler, not so much. So I always think that Southwest is sort of a leader in making these kinds of changes. They always seem to be one jump ahead of their competitors in making these kinds of analysis. So there you have it. Go have a vacation, but you may not have as many business flights as you once thought you might have. And on that note, it is now 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. All right, I want to tell you about EverSeal. Stop wasting your money on concrete and wood sealing. Protect against cracks and pitting for less. That's what you want, isn't it? What is EverSeal? Well, it's something that's been used in industrial applications for many, many, many years. And the folks at EverSeal just figured out how to use it for your home or your business in a way that owners can actually afford. process starts with a deep cleaning. They go in, they get your wood, the concrete, and make it look as new as it could possibly look. Really clean it up. Then they use their patented seal which will absorb all the way through the wood and concrete and actually become a permanent part of your wood and concrete. That's right. Not just a coating. It's actually becomes part of those things. And the end result is you prevent any further deterioration for the next 30 to 50 years. Wow. I think about how much money. I mean, just think about your deck. I mean, my deck, you gotta, if you have a deck, you gotta go out there and coat it once a year and seal it up. Well, think about how much money you would save over the course of maybe 30 years. I think it's worth exploring. If it sounds like something you'd like to explore, why don't you reach out to Steve Nelson and the team over at Everseal? They'll be happy to answer your questions. 1-844-EVER-USA. That's 844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. And one of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now, we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now, we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.